from Cape Town, South Africa. Glad to have you with us on a Monday, on a holiday week here in our lovely state of Utah. Lots to talk about in the sports world as we get closer and closer to the kickoff of your Utah football season. Is that accurate, James? We are 40 days away. James Peterson behind the glass.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw it either. OC, 40 days. That's a month and 10 days.
40 days? That's one Lenten season for all you Catholics out there.
Okay.
All right. That's 40 days and 40 nights. That's that Josh Hartnett movie from the early 2000s or late 90s or whatever.
Shout out to Noah's Ark, too. So, yeah, we're 40 days out, which is basically just a month away. Like, a few days extra.
You can round down at this point, yeah.
But you're basically a month away, which is exciting, but it also makes you go, where did all the time go?
Yeah, well, you better cram in as much summer as you can because you've got a month left of it. High school football kicks off in 3 weekends. I think it's rapidly approaching. It's insane.
Yeah, and week 0 is 33 days away. So just a week earlier, obviously, than when Utah plays. So we are so close to football. Just a few weeks away.
We're almost there,
Can you feel it? Can you feel it, OC?
I can smell it is what I can do. I can't feel it so much as I can smell it. The lizard part of your brain starts to give you the smell of old cleats, give you the smell of leather. Maybe it's mostly
sweat.
It's mostly old cleats. So maybe I just need to wash some clothes or something like that.
Maybe not grass so much as rubber pellets nowadays because of all the turf fields.
I will say this. There is something about football season that I think my brain will always react the same way if and whenever I get kind of face down in grass, that smell of that, because it only
makes
happened.
You think of football?
It only happened during football season. There's not really another time where you're face down in grass.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And in football happens even at the start of practices when you're stretching, you're just down in it.
We played in elementary school. We played a basically no rules soccer where you could, and obviously we tried to be careful enough that teachers weren't looking, so we could trip and tackle and use our hands and all that stuff. So yeah, faces were in the grass. Elementary school, illegal soccer, I guess what you call it.
So we're getting closer, and the University of Utah. The more I think about it, the more I read about it. They're in a really good spot right now. I say a good spot because you don't have to manufacture any of the, hey, nobody believes in you. You don't have to pretend that you have a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, Brian and I talked with you about this on Thursday at our Sports Center remote at Dumpke Family Stadium, that the sports books are starting to swing in Utah's favor. So I'm not sure. There's no conference media poll, but this is the next. But this is really all you got for the conference is these sports books making Utah the betting favorite to win the conference. So yeah, I'm not sure you can do that.
By the way, the SEC is continuing to do a preseason poll, and the Big Ten is continuing to do a preseason poll. The Big 12 is by itself in 2025.
Did the ACC do one?
I don't know.
I'm sure they did.
Have they even had their? I don't think they've had their media days.
May not have had their media days.
Media days this year for the Big 12 were so early. Even Kyle Whittingham made mention of that. He said, "Man, I think this is the earliest we've ever done it," and it is, by my inferior memory, the earliest we've ever done it.
Last year, 2024 was around the same time. So maybe it's just a Big 12 thing. Hey, we want to be first,
and that's fine. Get your announcements out there when you're not crowded with other information and other announcements from bigger conferences that are getting more attention. We know, it's a point that I can't help but belaboring, but I don't want to do it, that you're chasing. Everyone knows that you got half the revenue of the Big Ten and half the revenue of the SEC and half the five-star athletes, not even. And the coaches make half as much. All of it is just this arms race. But when you talk about where you're at from a playoff inclusion standpoint, Utah's in a really good spot. BYU also is in a really good spot. Everyone in the Big 12 right now is in a really good spot because The system as it stands right now is what it was last year. You don't have to worry, at least for 2025, and these storylines are going to go away as soon as you kick off. As soon as you start playing football, we'll be talking about football. But for now, just a little reminder that you don't have to wring your hands about, oh, my gosh, how many teams is the Big 12 going to get in a college football playoff? It's probably going to be one, okay? Just to go into it accepting that fact and then hope that it's going to be your Utes, because they're in a really good spot right now from an offensive line perspective, top of that list on down. And the sports books are loving the Utes, which makes me a little bit nervous on one hand, but that's a superstitious hand, because when you actually pay attention, Vegas knows what's up. They just do. They get top secret information we don't get, or they have time travelers working for them, or whatever it is. Vegas ends up being right more often than passionate sports fans who think emotionally. They're just a lot more analytical about it. So the superstitious side of me says, I don't want anyone saying Utah's the favorite, because Utah's identity and culture works better when they have something to be mad about. It's better for a Kyle Whittingham team to get a little bit ornery about the fact that nobody believes in them. That's not the case with Vegas this year. It is the case with media voices and social media and things like that. So it's a good spot for Utah football to be in. We'll be talking about it for the next 40 days until Utah kicks off against UCLA. Night game on Fox. You'll be able to hear our content at ESPN700sports.com, wherever we get you podcasts. If you haven't downloaded the ESPN 700 app yet, please do. And make sure when you do that, you're giving love to Big Willie's, the new title sponsor of the Sean O'Connell Show. They're bringing us food today. Our hot lunch today is going to be an actual hot lunch where we have hot lunch, and I will do my best. Well, two things. I refuse. I will not chew into the microphone. Okay. Shout out to one of my favorite. Shout out to one of my favorite shows that I used to listen to on local radio. You remember Mick and Allen that were on K-Bear 101? Maybe you're too young.
Yeah,
for
it
this.
was before my time.
Mick and Allen, awesome, right? Loved that show. They would eat on air, and it was the only time I was just like, stop!
And you could hear it.
You could hear him chewing. Just,
oh, man.
Oh, that's so good. And you could hear him chewing, and I can't stand that. So I won't do that to you, but the downside is if I'm smelling and seeing delicious food, my mouth might be watering, so I might end up talking like Sid the Sloth from Ice Age, where I've got a little bit of extra salivary situation.
Or, Todd Fritz from the Dan Patrick Show. Shout out to Fritzy. Always making fun of his those sounds he makes.
We got a lot to get into today. I have a couple start bench cuts that have already stirred the Utah fan base up a little. 877-353-0700. You know, I always love to hear from you on our text lines. 877-353-0700. Start bench cut linebackers. This is my favorite position to watch. It was really, even though in college I ended up transitioning to play offense, this was the position I will always feel when I think of myself in football as a linebacker. Linebacker is the funnest position to play. It's amazing. It's great. I think you have the most well-rounded athletes in a lot of cases playing linebacker, because you got to be big and strong and violent enough to take on offensive linemen. You got to be fast enough to run with running backs especially, but sometimes even with tight ends who are probably bigger than you, and occasionally with slot receivers who are a lot quicker than you. It's why I had to move to play fullback / tight end in college, because you have to be an incredibly well-rounded athlete to play linebacker. I think Utah's in a really good situation right now, linebacker-wise. The stand-up linebacker, the traditional, especially inside linebacker, is not as financially valued in professional football as I think the skill set demands. It's kind of like being a catcher in baseball. Catchers are not big money players, typically. It's not the sexiest position. Catchers are among the smartest baseball players. That's why a lot of them go on and be managers. They know the game very, very well. They're also involved in the game a heck of a lot more than every position player. They're more involved in the game than pitchers are, usually, because when the pitcher changes, the catcher stays. It's the funnest position to play in baseball because you don't have to wait around nearly as much as everyone else does. But linebackers are like catchers in that it's not super sexy necessarily. And now where we let contract values tell us how important positions are, the stand-up, sideline to sideline, patrol the middle type linebacker in pro sports and college sports, are pro sports now, is not typically a huge money position. It's not typically this guy can be the face of your franchise and that kind of a role. But you're the quarterback of a defense a lot of times, depending on how good the safeties who play are. So linebacker's my favorite. Made this one the hardest for me to put together from a start bench cut standpoint. So start bench cut linebackers for Utah football in the Pac-12, Power 4, Power 5 era, whatever you want to call that. Start bench cut the modern Utah linebackers. Chase Hansen, Gianni Paul, Devin Lloyd. Start one, bench one, cut one. Three of the best defensive players that we have seen roll through the University of Utah's program. Chase Hansen, Gianni Paul, Devin Lloyd. Start one, bench one, cut one. 877-353-0700. We're playing start, bench, cut all the way through the summer, all the way up until kickoff. And this one was a tough one for me to put together. Honorable mention, shout-out to the Cody Bartons of the world, the Francis Bernards of the world, Jared Norris. That's my guy. Everyone knows how much I love Jared Norris. More recent, Nephi Sewell was a great linebacker. Even more recent, Karene Reed, a great linebacker for the University of Utah. But the start bench cut comes down to those three. Chase Hansen, Gianni Paul, hope you're doing well, Gibo, and Devin Lloyd. How are you going to play this one out, James? Have you thought about it? Are you looking up stats? Because I can give you numbers. You want some numbers?
I'm ready for some numbers.
You want some numbers to put
Gianni,
it in context?
was it? Remind me, because it's a little bit before.
Gianni Paul, 2014.
He spent one season.
No, two seasons.
2 seasons with the Utes, but it was the one that he really had the standout year, right?
2014, he was with the team. He was injured for part of that year. It was 2015, his senior season, after transferring from Miami, that Gianni Paul was, I mean, he is the perfect snapshot of the college, all-American caliber college player that just doesn't have the thing you need to be in the NFL. He was short. He was not blazing fast. He didn't get a cup of coffee at the NFL level. He ran a terrible 40 time. I mean, the whole thing just was insane to me because he was such a dominant player. And in 2015, somebody tweeted this, and I echoed the statement wholeheartedly, and I have on air for several years. He should have been the defensive player of the year in the conference. DeForest Buckner ended up winning it, and it shows you how important it is for team success to breed individual accolades when it comes to college football especially, because if Utah had won a conference championship with Gianni Paul as a starting linebacker, as a defensive captain, he absolutely would have been the defensive player of the year.
And Chase Hansen's a similar thing.
He
in
lost to Ben
2018.
Burke-Kirven.
He looked like, from all of us that covered it and watched that 2018 season, he looked like a no doubt Pac-12 defensive player of the year guy, but because they weren't the top team in the conference and because Burke-Kirven had way more tackles because he was a tackling machine that year, he lost out on that, even though I think just about everybody around here saw him as the most deserving for that award. So it's very similar 2018 season for Chase Hansen as the 2015 season for Gianni Paul.
I haven't even looked up. I don't know what Ben Burke-Kirtman's NFL career has looked like, if he's had one. I think he's with the Seattle Seahawks. All right. Not bad for him. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. So the numbers for Gianni Paul, we'll go in chronological order here, I guess. Gianni Paul, 2 seasons at the University of Utah. And again, when your start bench cut calculation comes in, some people say, you know what, if I'm putting one guy out there for one season, it's hard to beat this season. He ended up playing 13 games for the Utes in 2015. He had 117 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 4 interceptions, 4 fumble recoveries, 2 forced fumbles. And one of those was a fumble return for a touchdown as well. Gianni Paul's 2015 is one of the best defensive seasons we've seen for a Ute ever. The season before that, he was really good, but not on that same level, not the bar that he set for 2015. Chase Hansen, as most people know, played multiple positions for the University of Utah. Only one of those was at linebacker full-time. 2015, he was a quarterback. 2016, he played 13 games as a defensive back. 2017, injury kept him out for, I guess that would have been 5 games of that year. In 2018, he played 14 games, had 114 tackles, so 1 extra game, 3 fewer total tackles than Gianni Paul, but 22 of those were tackles for a loss. That's a really good TFL number in one season.
It's one of the things, like the highlight plays that Chase Hansen made in 2018 were for me what made him a no-doubter Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year guy, because he had game-winning pick sixes that season. He had game-deciding interceptions, fumble recoveries, all those tackles for loss. The tackles for loss number is a good one that talk about the highlight plays that he made.
He had 22 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, one of those returned for a touchdown, recovered a fumble. Great player. So very, very similar numbers to Gianni Paul. Fewer total tackles than Gianni had, fewer interceptions than Gianni had, 1 more touchdown return, fewer forced fumbles, fewer fumbles recovery than Gianni Paul had. He had 8 more, that's a good number, 8 more tackles for loss and 2 more sacks, 2 fewer interceptions. This one is so hard, man. And then, of course, you've got Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd, he played 4 years at linebacker for the University of Utah. So, again, are you calculating it based on the single best season these guys had for your start bench cut? The full body of work? He played in all 14 games as a freshman, almost exclusively, I think actually exclusively on special teams. 2019, his sophomore year, another 14 games. He had 91 tackles as a sophomore.
First year as a starter, and that, if you remember, was the year that Manny Bowen was supposed to be the second linebacker, and then he left for a business opportunity, which in hindsight,
very strange.
Which in hindsight looks even worse because that was 2 years away from NIL, but he also didn't have enough eligibility for that. Anyway, that aside, that's how Devin got the chance to be the starter next to Francis Bernard in a just an all-time great season for Utah, especially on defense.
So 2019, he ended up with 91 tackles as a sophomore, 11 tackles for loss as a sophomore, pick 6, a 64-yard pick 6 as a sophomore. Now, his junior year, not great. Only played 5 games.
The COVID year. So there was only 5 games on the schedule.
That's
so
right.
That's that one we can kind of
by the way,
go over.
He still had 10 tackles for loss in 5 games.
Yeah. So
2021 Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. Devin Lloyd, 65 solo tackles, 45 assisted, a total of 110. So slightly lower than Gianni Paul's best season, slightly lower than Chase Hansen's best season. He had 22 tackles for loss. That equals the number generated by Chase Hansen. He had 8 sacks. That's better than either of those two guys had in their best seasons for the Utes. He had 4 interceptions. That ties the number that Gianni Paul had in his best season.
Was there 2 of those pick sixes? I think there's at least 2. One of those was
great memory. He had 2 pick sixes.
Yeah.
So half of his interceptions were run back.
The one was against Stanford when it was like on the goal line and he like ripped it out of the offensive player's hands and just landed in the end zone. It was like a fumble recovery, but it technically an interception. That one was amazing. And then the Pac-12 championship game against Oregon, I remember.
So he had 2 pick sixes. He ended up with Devin, I'm so embarrassed for you. He had no forced fumbles and no fumble recoveries.
The only flaw in all the stat line.
So so that's comparing their best seasons, right? Gianni Paul had 178 tackles in 2 years for the Utes. Chase Hansen ended up with 272 total tackles in his 4 years. And again, remember, one of those was playing quarterback.
Yeah, he only the 1 year is linebacker.
Only 1 year is linebacker, 2 years, and it was really a year and a half before that as a defensive back. But he ended up with 272 tackles, all for the University of Utah. Devin Lloyd had 255 total tackles for the Utes, 43 career tackles for loss. Chase Hansen had 35 career tackles for loss as a Ute. Gianni Paul in those 2 years, 17. So we did this with running backs, where some guys like Devontae Booker had like a couple years, 1 year especially, that was just like, oh my gosh, if you extrapolate that year out to 2 or 3 or 4, he would have been one of the best all time, but he only had it for the 1 year, right? So how do we do it? Start, bench, cut, Chase Hansen, Gianni Paul, Devin Lloyd.
I'm starting Devin Lloyd because he had more good years, great years at linebacker than Gianni and Chase had. Certainly Chase with just the 1 year at the position, as great as it was. So I'm starting Devin. Also, the other reason I'm starting Devin, Kyle Whittingham called him the greatest linebacker in the history of the program.
And even though we do not factor in NFL draft status,
first-round pick,
he is the highest drafted linebacker ever to play at the University of Utah. So the NFL thought the same thing that what Kyle Whittingham said.
Yeah, thought he had a great college career as well. So, yeah, when the head coach, who was a linebacker himself, a great linebacker himself as a player, he knows that position. Obviously, when he says the greatest in the history of the program, or certainly in his time as head coach, that kind of says there's not much argument for anyone else. But so I'm starting Devin Lloyd, and I think I'm going to. It's so tough with the other two because they're basically almost the same career. Gianni had a few more games at linebacker the year before, but similar standout seasons in their one full year at the position. And maybe it's because I just saw it closer than I did the Gianni Paul season, but I think I'm benching Chase Hansen and just I hate to cut Gianni Paul, but that you got to cut one of them. That's the guy I'm cutting. That's a tough one.
There have been some people who opted out and said, I refuse, I'll play all 3 of them. You're going back to the 4-3 base defense. All right, well, if you're doing that, who's your stud? Who are you going to make the stud? You're going to make Devin Lloyd? He was the biggest one. You're going to make him be the stud backer?
So the fact that the other reason why Devin, for me, is a starter, the guy, he was a sack machine, too, at linebacker.
Yeah.
For 8 sacks in his top season.
Which is something that they kind of discovered that final season.
Yeah.
That he had incredible pass rush instincts. Even if you wanted to line him up, put his hand in the dirt, they were just like, oh, geez, look, he's also able to do that.
Yeah.
He had a knack for beating pass sets.
Yeah.
which he could have been a great pass rusher.
He could if that's what they committed him to do, and it's one of the reasons why, even though he's not a big highlight guy in the NFL, he's a guy that the Jaguars see super valuable because he can do everything at the linebacker position. But yeah,
by the way, we
like
talk
the
about
versatility of him helps him stand out in this group too.
So Devin Lloyd in the NFL, like you said, he hasn't been like this crazy standout highlight machine. What do you think he's averaging for tackles a year right now?
Yeah, I don't even know where to guess. So maybe 70.
2022, 115 tackles. 2023, 127 tackles. Yes. 2024, 113 tackles. The dude is he's killing it.
He's still just a model of consistency.
Also, in 2022, he had 3 interceptions. Anyway, so look, Devin Lloyd, I think this one is a tough one. I think Devin Lloyd is the easiest part of this. I think you have to start Devin Lloyd. The other 2 guys had a strong case for being Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. Devin actually won it.
Yeah. But to your point, Utah won the conference that year, so if Oregon had won, maybe Kayvon Thibodeau wins instead of Devin, even though all those numbers speak to Devin being the best player in the conference.
I think I'm going to go. I'm starting Devin. I'm benching Gianni Paul. Makes me sick to say it. I'm cutting Chase Hansen. See, and I'm blaming the cutting Chase Hansen on Morgan Scalley and Kyle Whittingham because I said, I very distinctly remember this. This is right in the thick of my radio career. They went and they met him at the airport when he got home from his mission. And there was a lot of conversation about, Chase Hansen's not going to be a quarterback. He's not going to be a quarterback. And I was like, you don't go meet a safety when they get back from the mission. You only pick him up as the coach if that guy's going to be a quarterback. That is treatment you give to a quarterback. I was wrong about that. They ended up having him be a safety. And that whole time, I was like, he's going to be a linebacker. I would ask Kyle Whittingham at Pac-12 Media Days, and when we get to practice, when are you going to have Chase Hansen gain 10 pounds and play linebacker? And he laughed. He would laugh, and he would give the, kind of like the non-committal. We've talked about that. Chase is playing really good ball at safety, which he did. Chase Hansen as a linebacker was where he really thrived. That was the best version of Chase Hansen. So Chase could have, I think if you got 3 years of Chase as a linebacker, we'd be talking about him the same way we talk about Devin Lloyd as I
would agree with that.
Argument for being the best to ever play the position at the school. And by the way, there's some really good ones that have played at the school. I mean, you go back through the record books before Utah became a football school, there were some guys who were absolute monsters, tackling machines. Anyone remember Kautai Olivau? I mean, Spencer Toon was a great backer. We had a bunch of really, really good ones. Stevenson Sylvester, who you hear on these airwaves during Utah football radio broadcasts.
I'm going to guess he's on the pre-power conference start bench cut list.
Here's the thing, James. I thought about doing both of them on the same day. I'm debating whether we even do one at linebacker because it's too predictable what people are going to do.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to start Sly. There's been a heavy recency bias with the pre-Power 5 era, and Sly is the most memorable, and he's the one who stays top of mind. Yeah. I don't know how many people.
It helps that he's in media now, too, so we haven't forgotten about him as the person.
And we all have these really vivid memories of Sly as part of that Sugar Bowl team. You know what I mean?
Being part of an all-time great team and the way he played in that Sugar Bowl game, too, helps a whole lot. So,
the linebackers for the Fiesta Bowl team were quiet by comparison.
Yeah.
Tommy Hackenbruck had 1 year as a linebacker. He had been playing fullback, basically.
We talk about the safeties when we talk about the stars.
You talk about the safeties, and you talk about the safeties, and you talk about the D tackles.
Yeah,
those were the stars of that Fiesta Bowl defense.
And when in 2008, it was kind of linebackers, and I guess in Rojo at safety. It was Sly at linebacker, Rojo at safety.
The reason that team was the second best team in the country was because they had Sly, Mike Wright, Keppa Geisen. They had They had Silver Salinga playing defensive tackle.
That's
Derek
true.
Shelby
I
playing. They had
forgot about Silver being on
They
that
had
team.
Silver was on that team. Derek Shelby was on that team. Koamisi and Paul Kruger
Oh yeah,
were
Paul
your
Kruger
defensive
was
ends.
on that team too.
Bryce
Just
McCain
loaded,
and Sean
man.
Smith were your corners. Joe Dale and Rojo. I mean, that defense was
There wasn't a miss in any of those names.
that defense was unbelievable.
That defense, those starters would have held up in a Pac-12 schedule.
Absolutely.
Pac-10 back then.
100%.
Yeah.
Like that was from a
And
collection of
now
talent standpoint, and the draft reflected it.
Yeah, the depth is always the question back then. Obviously, the group of five, even great group of five teams don't have the same depth that Power 4, Power 5 teams do. So maybe not Pac-12 depth in 2008, but certainly the starters would have been starters in the Pac-12.
1624 makes a good point. The year that Lloyd won DPOY, he wasn't just the best player on the team, he was the best player in the conference, and honestly, it wasn't that close.
He's probably right.
Yeah. Chase Hansen should have won DPOY. He should have been a linebacker for 3 years. Gianni Paul should have come to Utah straight out of school, but he's a South Florida kid and he went to Miami instead.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
I almost benched Gianni and cut Chase because even though it was injury riddled first year at linebacker, he had one more year at the position. But Chase's best season in a few of those categories you could say was better than even Gianni Paul's, which was amazing in 2015. So that I think that judging them by their best seasons, that's why I did it. I benched Chase and cut Paul.
You know what makes me feel old? Chase Hansen is 32 years old.
Yeah.
That makes me feel old. Wow. All right, we got to take a break here. What a bad radio host I am. I haven't even told you who's all coming on the show. Trey Fitzgerald is going to join us next, RSL's VP of Communications. Scott Mitchell is joining us at noon. Chris Navalta, author of a new children's book, Basketball Stars, which is a great book. Send us a copy of it. It's an awesome read, especially if you've got kids, obviously. We just have a lot to get to on the Sean O'Connell Show. But up next, it'll be Trey Fitzgerald. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Little rush to bring in Trey Fitzgerald, RSL VP of Communications. Kind enough to give us some time on the Sean O'Connell Show. Trey, how are you?
I'm good, OC. How are you today?
I'm doing all right, man. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. What happened against Cincinnati on Saturday? A 1-0 loss for RSL.
You know, it's probably something you've seen happen in the ring or the octagon or in the fight game, I should say. But RSL dominated the best team in the league for 85 minutes, but couldn't deliver that knockout blow, that final finish. And they very much against the run of play, one of their guys came down and hit a world-class goal, and you lose 1-0. And, there's no moral victories, which is kind of what Pablo Mastroeni told the guys after the game. But he said, look, we've talked about the group progressing to a point where we want to see where we stand against the best. And we went toe-to-toe with them for the majority of the game. But unfortunately, if you don't take advantage of your opportunities and you don't score that goal, you don't have anything to show for it. So a lot to build on. Obviously, just a bittersweet night there in Sandy.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Actually, we had that exact situation happen in the fights I was calling on Saturday, which we'll get to on the show a little bit later. But, oftentimes when you see that in other sports, you talk about it being kind of an experience thing. You talk about it being a lesson that you just have to go through in order to learn. And this is a relatively young roster. And there are teams out there, especially good teams, that you can play with them, but if you don't put them away, they will find a way. I think that's a mark of a good performer, a good athlete, a good team. You can win even when it's ugly. You can win even when it's not your night. You can find that thing. You can find that space. You can find that one opportunity for, like you said, a world-class goal. How close is this RSL team, though, to learning that for themselves?
Yeah, so the progress the team has made over the last couple months, going into Saturday, 5 games unbeaten, back-to-back shutouts, you've really seen kind of a young group and a group of maybe some new pieces coming into the core. The first part of the season, they obviously struggled to find cohesion, to find consistency, but that's what's delivered the results over the last, couple months. June and July have been very, very good. The team went from 13th to 10th in the standings, right on the precipice of the playoff line. So it's all there. The summer transfer window does open Thursday. I do believe that our chief soccer officer, Kurt Schmidt, and his staff are working with Pablo and the assistant coaches to try to find a couple pieces that could, be the difference makers around what everybody believes is a extremely talented and extremely solid core group of guys.
It was the 4th game in 14 days. How fresh are the legs versus how fatigued is this team as they head into another one on Saturday?
Yeah, 3-game weeks are always rough when you go Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Pablo probably rotated those, that group a little less than normal because the momentum was good and everybody looked so solid. But yeah, for both teams Saturday night, the last 20, 30 minutes of the game looked really, really like both teams were tired and ragged. So I think having a normal week, quote unquote normal week, where we go into Saturday at home against our old friend Chicho in San Jose on Pioneer Day weekend with the fireworks and all that stuff, the guys will be ready and they'll be certainly refreshed. But coming out of Saturday, then you're going to have a lot more 3-game weeks. So I think we're gonna get a chance to display our depth.
Trey, and this is kind of a non sequitur, I suppose, but at what point do players start feeling the anticipation? When does the tingle set in? While you have you got an MLS season you got to be focused on and you got to play for, that the World Cup is right around the corner. And the U.S. is the host nation, and Diego Luna is the best guy we got at this point. So, I know it's still far away, but it's also not that far away. At what point does that become conversational, in the locker room with these guys and between themselves as they're going out for training and when they're having those 3-game weeks and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, look, the World Cup and the one that's going to be here in North America a year from now is going to be the largest sporting event spectacle the world has ever seen. And specifically for a guy like Diego, who has a real opportunity to not only be on that World Cup team, but to be a driving force for the United States. I think it's palpable, right? I think he's feeling it. He's injected so much passion, pride, energy in the way he's played for the U.S. team in the Gold Cup tournament last month and in recent weeks and months this year. He's really putting himself, as you mentioned, at the forefront. And, there's plenty of other guys. Our guy, Xavier Gozo, he's got the U20 World Cup coming up here in September. So, all the guys, regardless of what nation they represent in their international career or their youth career, they're very much looking forward to the World Cup and just what does it mean to have the eyes of the world focused, for 30 days on a handful of games.
All right, back to RSL, as you mentioned, San Jose, and a point ahead of RSL right now in the Western Conference standings. Give me a sense of how this matchup looks tactically and technically.
Yeah, San Jose, they got out of the gate strong. They completely overhauled their roster. They hired, kind of U.S. soccer MLS legend Bruce Arena as their head coach. They brought in Chicho. They brought in another kind of aging icon in MLS in Josef Martinez. When they're on their day, they score a lot of goals, and it's kind of coming at an interesting time against RSL, which had not given up a goal in 275 minutes before that late game winner for Cincinnati the other night. So RSL's defense has been really solid. It's kind of strength versus strength. We've turned over the team a little bit since Chicho was here, so I'm sure there'll be some friendly banter, but it won't be a big emotional reunion. He wasn't here long enough, to be frank, I think, for that. So obviously he was really good the first 18 months he was here and kind of went into a drought the back half of last year. But a couple of the guys were asked about that after the game Saturday, and they said, look, we're about maximizing points and maximizing results. And now that we dropped some points at home, we got to figure out a way to pick those back up. And so the full 3 points is kind of the mandate. The guys are focused on themselves Saturday. And, San Jose has fallen off a little bit in the last month or two. So I think we feel like they're ripe for the taking. But this league is a crazy league, and anybody can beat anybody else on any given day. So it's about who steps up and who shows up.
Well, you just said the thing that I think Utah fans are going to get real sick of hearing all football season long, because we're going to talk about the parity in the Big 12. And my next question was going to be about, the parity right now, especially in the Western Conference of MLS, because you got kind of a log jam down in that 7, 8, 9, 10 range.
Yeah.
How large is the gap between 1, 2, 3, and 4 between that third group, so to speak?
Yeah, and this is something else with MLS. The season's so long, right? Our opening game against San Jose was February 22nd. Our final regular season game on decision day against St. Louis, I think, is October 16th or October 19th, something like that. So you'll hear Pablo and other guys talk a lot about it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I think we have 11 regular season games left. The majority of those are at home. And, like you said, there's a massive logjam. So you're going to have a lot of what people will call 6-point games coming down the stretch here. And you just got to take care of business. And this league, you win 2 or 3 in a row because it is so tightly packed. It's so parity driven. You can shoot right up the standings. Conversely, you drop a couple back-to-back, 3 in a row. You fall like a stone. So that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes the race exciting. And this transfer window that opens here Thursday, you're going to see different teams make different moves. Some teams may spend literally tens of millions of dollars to bring in a player or two, and other teams are going to be a little more maybe strategic about finding young potential in positions of need. So it's going to be really interesting to see how those final, 10, 12 games of everybody's regular season go based on integrating new players and finding the cohesion to get hot at the right time like we did back in 2009 when we won our championship.
And then, of course, as you're trying to figure out all that stuff at MLS, you've got coming up a 3-match run in Ligas Cup with Club America, San Luis, and Querétaro. So, I know I've been talking – our guy Alonso's really excited about this, was trying to explain to me, like, how cool this is, especially for the Latino fan base, the Mexican fan base, and, trying to give me a sense. Like, because you don't have it in other sports. You don't have, your favorite NFL team – doesn't stop the middle of their NFL season and take on a couple of, Argentine American football clubs or whatever. And this is, again, one of the things that happens in MLS and is something that your team has to adjust to. So what should we expect from Ligas Cup play?
Yeah, Leagues Cup, like you said, it is exciting. You get to play teams that maybe have a little bit different style. Club America are, basically the Dallas Cowboys or the New York Yankees of Mexican soccer. They are the biggest brand. They're the biggest name. They have the biggest following. They spend a lot of money on their roster, so they have world-class players up and down their roster and their bench. So that's going to be a big test. So having them visit Sandy for, I think, the second time in their history. They came here in 2009, I believe, for an exhibition game. But these Leagues Cup games, they'll give Pablo and his staff a chance to maybe integrate some new players, to try some guys in some different spots. You'll see some young players maybe get a few more minutes than they would. But, we want to win. So having 3 of these basically like group stage games at home in quick succession, then we go play a couple league games. Hopefully we advance out of our group with 3 quality performances, and then you'll have the knockout, the quarterfinal, semifinal, and final in the back half of August. So, but those Leagues Cup games, they really do provide opportunity not only for every individual but for the group collectively. And it is weird, right? We're just not used to, as American sports fans, to have these kind of separate tournaments concurrent with our season. I guess the NBA's kind of trying that cup now. I'm not, probably needs a few more years to gain some traction, but it will be good, especially if we can get some of these new players either via trade or via international transfer into our team and integrated with the guys.
You want to play some start bench cut before I let you go?
Yeah, sure.
All right, we're doing start bench cut movie stars. Start one, bench one, cut one. Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Denzel Washington.
I will start Denzel.
Nice.
I will cut Tom Cruise. Who am I benching? What's the third guy?
That would be Brad Pitt. You're benching Brad.
Oh yeah, I just saw F1. Brad Pitt was good, pretty shallow, but he's entertaining. I'm just not a Tom Cruise guy. I don't know if it's. I'm old enough to remember the Oprah couch jumping incident, so maybe that's what sticks in my head.
That's fair enough for me.
But Denzel's the best, man. Whether it's a training day or, what's oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his other movie, Man on Fire, one of my favorite movies.
Man on Fire is the second best movie of all time. Braveheart number one. Braveheart number one. Man on Fire number 2. For me.
See, I'd put Armageddon number 1, but that just tells you more about me than you probably need to know.
Okay, if I put Bruce Willis in there, are you still starting Denzel, or does Bruce take over?
It's an argument, but I'd still put Denzel 1. He's been too good for too long in too many things.
Yeah, agreed. All right, you're the man, Trey. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, OC. Talk soon.
Trey Fitzgerald talking a little RSL. Up next for them, it's San Jose on Saturday. Fireworks coming because we do fireworks more than everyone else does. Pioneer Day weekend. What a fun little thing we have in the summertime.
Yeah, if you love fireworks, you want to move to Utah or at least vacation here around the 24th.
You got two places. You can go to China where they invented the firework.
True.
Or you can go to Utah where we just we
do it twice in the same month.
That's right.
Let's go. And of course, everyone does it on New Year's. So instead of 2 times, you get 3.
That's right. You get a whole extra fireworks day. And really that translates to 7 extra fireworks day because they're legal 3 days before and 3 days after the actual holiday.
True.
So it's an extra week of fireworks.
Yeah.
There you go. Big thanks to Trey Fitzgerald for stopping by. If you are in Orem this week, make sure you stop by Orem Toyota for a chance to win $5,000 in cash. Next giveaway is happening on Thursday, Pioneer Day. Take a selfie with a red tag vehicle, tag yourself and the dealership, register on ESPN700sports.com. Don't miss your chance to win $5,000 in cash. All right, Hot Lunch is coming next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Scott Mitchell is going to join us in about 7 minutes. Time for the hot lunch, and today's hot lunch, if you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing out. Today's hot lunch, I'm holding it up right now in front of you, is an actual hot lunch from our title sponsor, Big Willie's, 1717 South Main Street in the heart of Salt Lake City. The sports bar for Salt Lake City. Every big game, every big fight, every big match, every big golf tournament, you want to head over to Big Willie's and watch there. And all week long, they are running lunch specials, the OC special. Just walk in, say, hey, I heard about it on the OC show, heard about it on the Sean O'Connell show. $15. This is the stuffed burger with tots. It's a Big Willie's original. You won't find it anywhere else. 2 hand-rolled ground beef patties, stuffed sautéed mushrooms, jalapenos, melted cheddar cheese, cheddar onion bun, and tots. And, of course, because Patrick and company down there at Big Willie's know me so well, extra fry sauce for your boy. I told you this was going to happen, James. My mouth is watering. I'm having to swallow excessively. You want me to show it again? Okay. James adjusted our camera. Look at that thing. Perfectly melted cheese. The jalapenos have been crisped a little bit, little blackened edge on those jalapenos. Oh, man. Sliced mushrooms, double patty, cheddar onion bun. $15. Lunch special. Go in, tell them you heard about it on the Sean O'Connell show. They're going to hook you up. And by the way, Big Willie's is your destination as Utah football season approaches so rapidly, 40 days away. Home games, pregame at Big Willie's, okay? Little shuttle bus up to the game from Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. Drive responsibly, meaning don't drive, right, after you imbibe. They'll take care of you. And then food specials, of course, for that. They had a big party, a watch party and food specials for the UFC fights on Saturday. They had the PFL fights on Saturday afternoon because obviously we were overseas. It's the place to watch whatever your favorite sports are. Sunday, little brunch, a little Scotty Scheffler for you on Sunday. They take care of everything. And if you're into pool tables, constantly kept up, world-class, refelted. They make sure it's not like when you go to a lot of bars. The sticks are a little wonky. There's never any chalk. There's always scuffs on the felt. They take pride in their pool room. Big Willie's also takes pride in their menu. Oh, my goodness. Look at that, the Monday special. They're doing it, by the way, every day this week. James, can I tease ahead for a couple of the...
absolutely.
Today's the stuffed burger with tots, $15 lunch special. Tomorrow, buffalo chicken sandwich with buffalo chicken rollers. Grilled steak salad on Wednesday. Little hump day healthy, okay?
Yeah.
Pioneer Day, crispy chicken wrap and jalapeno poppers. Friday, Cuban sandwich and 4 wings. None of these lunch specials more than $15. Serve them up every single day on the Sean O'Connell Show. Hot lunch from Big Willie's. Ooh, baby.
That all sounds amazing. The stuffed burger that they just brought in looks amazing, smells great. I'm jealous that they only brought one for you, OC, but I'm going to have to just enjoy it vicariously through you.
If you want, I'll bring it into the studio so you can smell it.
I can smell free smells.
Just you can smell. I'm not going to share.
Fair enough.
I don't want to
Fair
share
enough.
with you.
No, it looks great. Certainly looks like worth going up. I may have to go over there after the show and get a little lunch special.
If you're out there, if you're driving around in your car right now and you were going to hit the drive-through somewhere or you were going to stop in your normal haunt, instead, detour 1717 South Main, Big Willie's. Tell them that you want the Sean O'Connell special, stuffed burger with tots. If you're afraid of the jalapenos, just tell them you don't want it spicy, and it'll be double patties, melted cheddar cheese, cheddar onion bun, lettuce, tomato, onion, mushrooms, sautéed mushrooms, and tots, tater tots.
Tots.
Oh, mama. We're going to have to – I'm going to do 7 breaks in a row, James, so I have enough time to eat the whole – no, just kidding. We'll take a quick one here. We're going to come back. We're going to talk some Utah football with Scott Mitchell on the other side. Also, the big news is that another in-state quarterback, I guess now a former in-state quarterback, Jake Retzlaff, has found his future home in college football. We'll talk about that with the big lefty as well. Sean O'Connell Show on a Monday. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome to hour number 2 on Utah's number 1 sports talk. I probably owe an apology to everyone who's been tuning in on the YouTube because you I'm sure, spent the last 3 or 4 minutes watching me just house as much of this stuffed burger as I could from Big Willie's. Wow, that is delicious. $15 burger special at Big Willie's today. Just wander in there, 1717 South Main. Tell them OC sent you a stuffed burger with tots for $15. 2 hand-rolled ground beef patties, perfectly cooked and seasoned, by the way, sautéed mushrooms, jalapenos with just a little perfect amount of char on the edge of those jalapenos. And by the way, not overly spicy. They clearly took most of the nasty seeds out of there. Melted cheddar cheese, cheddar onion bun, side of crispy tater tots. And again, tots, if you don't put them in long enough, they can get a little soggy. These are perfectly crispy. So, wow. Thank you to Big Willie's. All right, Scott Mitchell joins us. He's a Utah football legend. He is the color analyst on all Utah radio broadcasts that you're going to hear 40 days hence right here on ESPN 700. And he's also the host of Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell immediately before this show. Scott, hello. How are you?
They took the nasty seeds out of it. That's the way I want my burger. No nasty seeds.
Yeah, man,
doing great.
You can't leave all those seeds in a jalapeno. All right, you gotta put in the effort to get the seeds out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Yes, I understand.
All right, Scott, we're gonna start with my start bench cut for today. Are you ready?
Bring it on. Let's do it.
Start bench cut linebackers, Utah football linebackers from the Pac-12 / Power 4, Power 5 era. Devin Lloyd, Gianni Paul, Chase Hansen. Start one, bench one, cut one.
Ooh. I'm going to start Devin Lloyd, bench Chase Hansen, although he was pretty freaking good. And I'm going to cut Gianni Paul.
Yeah. Hard to cut any of these guys. I started Lloyd. I benched Gianni, and I cut Chase Hansen. And even as I did it, I felt sad about it, you know?
Ooh. Well, that's a tough one.
The tough thing here is one guy, as you know, Devin Lloyd, won Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. The other two, you could make very, very strong cases that they deserved to win it and probably should have, even though the team success didn't support them winning it. In Devin's case, team won a championship. He was the best defensive player on the team, so he got it. But man, Chase Hansen and Gianni Paul, both in their best years in their senior years as linebackers, made a really strong case, and were effectively Player of the Year runner-ups on defense.
So when you bring these up, I just go back to a comment Morgan Scalley said earlier this spring. He says, "Do you not have confidence in us by now? Like, we've been doing this for decades. We know the parts, we know how they fit, and we go find the parts and we plug them into the system. The name could be different, but you're going to get pretty much the same production." And that's kind of how all these guys are. Like, they got a great system there defensively. They know how to recruit it. They know how to develop it. And we should trust them. And that's just indicative. These three players are a great example of that.
And by the way, at linebacker this year, I think Utah is in a really good situation. We've talked about this. And James, when I hopped on last week, we had this conversation. They brought it up. I know you've been touching on it as well. But, the preseason polls didn't have an official media poll at Big 12 Media Days. But every publication effectively has come out and said, here's what we think of the Big 12 Conference. Everyone agrees there's going to be a lot of parity. Everyone agrees that there's probably 7 or 8 teams that belong in the conversation, at least as dark horse candidates to win the conference. But Las Vegas sportsbooks are starting to say they are confident that Utah is either right at the top or in that second group right behind like a Kansas State or whatever. I mean, several sportsbooks now have Utah as the betting favorite to win the Big 12 Conference. Is that, in your mind, a reflection of what you just said, that people have trust that they're going to plug and play, and as long as the injuries don't plague the team this year, they're right back in it?
Well, if Vegas says it, they're pretty freaking accurate. They really are. I mean, and they do their homework. They don't get emotional on decisions. They look at trends. They do look at that track record. They do look at probably the schedule. They look at a lot of things. I think one of the things I don't know that people are really looking at the most, and that it's the energy. It's the kind of refocus. It's the, hey, we're not happy with having what happened the last couple of years here throughout that whole building with the coaches, with the players. and I think that will bode well for the team this year. I remember having a conversation with Kalani Sitake before last season, and he just said our guys are more committed. You can just sense that they really thought they were going to go in and be more competitive. They got eaten humble pie, and they're focused and they're ready, and they realize they've got to be better than they were if you're going to compete for a championship. And I kind of feel like that's how it is with Utah this year. You can't go year from year, like, well, last year, if this, because every year is certainly different, but there's a lot of success, a lot of experience on the defense this year. And some of the leaders like Alander Barton, he's going to be older. He's going to be better. He's going to be healthier, hopefully. You're going to see Smith Snowden playing a bigger role in this defense. That secondary's got a lot of talent in it. You've got a lot of pieces up front. Keanu Tunavasa, that's a hurt, but they feel like they got some pluggers in there. So that defense is going to be consistently good. I think they'll be as good, if not better, than they were a year ago. But it's the offense, and it's not so much Devin Dampier, but it's the design of the offense can create offense more than one way, more than conventionally. Okay, we're going to drop back and throw it down the field to our receivers. You're going to get these RPOs where they're runs, but you're going to expose a quick throw if it's available, and you've got a lot of different weapons that you can use. The quarterback can run the ball very effectively, and one of the things that's so good about Jason Beck is that his teams were very productive in the red zone. And that's what you got to have more points if you're Utah this year. And so finding a way to get into the red zone, but when you're there, scoring a lot of points is really the key to everything. And I think if Utah, could be marginally better offensively, which I believe they will be, then, yeah, this can be a really good year for Utah.
Scott Mitchell is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking about expectations. We are 40 days away from Utah football kicking off against UCLA. And this, Scott, that typically, July is the month you get your Thanksgiving break, you get your Christmas kind of like post that fall semester into first week of January break as a college football player. And most teams, their summer calendar, you have the guys in and they're having to work out their semi-mandatory workouts and player-led practices through most of June or into July. Some people do it in June where you send them home. Some people do it in July where you send them home. But this is kind of like the last couple of weeks for college and I guess for NFL players as well of your free time. Your body's starting to get ready. You obviously have to stay in shape. You did it a lot longer than most people did. What was summertime football like for Scott Mitchell, or what was summertime without football like for Scott Mitchell, I guess is a better way to ask it.
Yeah, it was torturous, actually, the very end of the summer before you went to camp, because you're already there. You're already there in your mind. Your body was already there. I talked about it a little bit on my show today. I used to go on this fishing trip, and it was sometime late June, early July. And even though I'm totally away from the world, I was never totally away from football. And so you like to think you have this downtime, but you really don't. And you're ready to get started, and you're ready to make a splash. There's something about there's like this energy, this enthusiasm. Everyone's just chomping at the bit to get started, and so there's this kind of rush of excitement when you get into training camp, and then you're there for 2 weeks and you still haven't played a game, and you realize how boring it is. But initially, it's just a real excitement to get there. I used to take football with me when I would go on this fishing trip, and I'd throw the football just to keep my arm, just to. There were times I used to go to the beach right before training camp when I was with the Miami Dolphins, and I would run on the beach every day. So even though I was on vacation, I really wasn't completely on vacation.
From a coaching standpoint, a lot of coaches we've talked to, they want that reset and they want the family time themselves, but they dread this time of year because when you cut guys loose and they get to go back to where, their old high school buddies are or whatever, it's when things can go south and when things can get a little bit interesting and disciplinary issues happen. This is like 80% of the DUIs that happen in college sports happen when you're on your summer holiday or on your holiday break and stuff. And Utah, thankfully, has been insulated from a lot of that in most years. But obviously, they've been on the opposite end of the spectrum, too, where really awful things have happened on off times for the University of Utah. So how do you manage and how do you balance that as a player, especially a team leader like some of the guys you were talking about, in making sure that when you do go home and you get that mental break, as you deserve, as you should get, you're also, putting yourself in the right situations and in the right places and things like that?
I think it's impossible to police it across the board with everyone. There's always going to be that one person. When you spend a lot of time preparing for a season and there's an expectation, most guys are in line with it. In the NFL, it was almost like you were ostracized from the team if you didn't come back to camp in shape, if you were having off the field issues or whatever. There was just kind of an unwritten law that just wasn't acceptable. And so for the most part, there's some guys that are always going to be out of shape, and they just pay for it. They go to camp and they have to work themselves into shape, and ultimately most of them do. But anyone who has any kind of significant role on the team usually shows up. It's a little different with how the off seasons are run, even in college football, where there's a lot of OTAs. There's a lot of time that's spent practicing and meeting and kind of prepping for the season. And the same with, in college, where they used to could just let them go, and they had to let them go. And they hope player run practices were okay, but that scared me to death as a coach to let these young guys run the practices. But now they give them a little bit more time, a little bit more meeting time. They get more time with the players, and recruiting changed. The real push for recruiting is now in June, and that's where you get so many guys to commit. That's where the coaches are really spending a lot of time. It's more like instead of taking that time off, they're now taking May off. And then they're really pushing, and then they're kind of getting, geared up through these first 2 months of the summer. And so I think it creates less of an opportunity for guys to get into trouble, and which I think is a good thing. I know, and you can say this probably 100% of guys, the routine of playing football is one of the best things to keep you out of trouble. Like you just know where you have to be. And I think guys like that. I know I really, and not that I got in trouble or anything, but I know it was easier for me when I had that routine every day. And so I tried to emulate a routine in the off season for that very reason, so that I didn't let the season, because it's fun in the off season. You go to a lot of things, and nobody cares. And so making sure you take care of your business and you create those routines were really helpful for me.
We've got Scott Mitchell, Utah football legend, host of the Down and Dirty right here on ESPN 700 for a few more minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show. You're in a different place than a lot of people are as former players at a school, because you're still so close to everything, and obviously you're part of the broadcast and you're part of the media. But was there ever a time that you felt like the head coach in this place doesn't want us old guys around? Or was there ever a time where you felt like you weren't welcome at the facility or anything like that as a Utah football veteran? I'm trying to recall. I don't recall ever not wanting to be welcomed. In fact, it's been, I know when Urban was there, he made a really big push to have former players. And, I spent a decent amount of time with Urban when he coached at Utah. He actually came to my house in Florida with his whole family when I lived in near Disney World, and spent some time there. It was really fun. And I spent time here with his family when he was in Salt Lake, and then of course Coach Whittingham, has just been wonderful about players, and he's really good about me because I kind of have a dual role.
And so I'm always welcome to practice. I'm always welcome really anywhere I want to be. I don't overuse it or abuse it. And there's things that I observe and watch and practice that I don't talk about on the media, or I don't share any of that information. I would say there's a very good culture at Utah where they're very welcoming. In the NFL, it's very similar. You can go back to games and they take really good care of you, but there have been coaches like with the Detroit Lions. They're like, no, we don't want former players here. We don't want anything. We don't want anybody. And that was actually Matt Patricia, who was a guy from the Patriots. He was just like, he just kind of banned everyone from being around. And I think most coaches are pretty smart about, celebrating and embracing the past and the whole culture of everything. And it's a nice thing. It really is to be a part of it. And I really enjoyed the games and broadcasting them. And it's just so fun for me because I was here, almost 40 years ago when I started at Utah. And it's just fun to see how far and how great the program has become. Last week we were up at the softball complex, and just the facilities for all of the sports are just first class. And it's just really, really exciting to see all that stuff from back when I was here a long time ago.
Well, I think a lot of Utah fans are probably thought that would be the answer, but are happy to hear it confirmed, because there have been teams and programs even locally. Like, I remember there was a time where former BYU players did not feel like they were super welcome around that program, and Utah State maybe the same thing. And the reason I brought it up is because you mentioned a couple of minutes ago that the big push of recruiting in June it was, I guess, July 1st technically, but Utah got a huge recruit, literally and figuratively, this Kelvin Obot kid who's going to end up being a 5-star recruit from Fruitland, Idaho. And a huge reason why they're able to get him is because his head coach is an all-time great Ute. And I know you're aware of this, but like Jordan Gross coaches this guy in Idaho and has stayed close to the program, and the program has always had kind of an open door, at least to my knowledge, with especially guys that were as good as Scott Mitchell and Jordan Gross. And it can I know that's not why Kyle Whittingham does it, but it can really translate to like actual concrete results on the field. You got a kid who's going to be a 5-star recruit because of this.
Yeah, it's kind of like that old adage they said, don't ever talk bad about your coach, because down the road he may be your coach again at another place. And it's just so much better to keep those relationships and build those relationships with players and former people associated with the program, because you never know where your path's going to cross and run into them down the road. And if you've established a good relationship, it could absolutely benefit you in a massive way with whatever it might be in your program or whatever. And they do a great job with that. Jason Buck and I used to do a podcast together, and it was really fun. It's kind of the playing off of the BYU-Utah rivalry. It was playing off an offense and defensive guy, and we had a really good time. One of the things we did was we went to the other player's school. And so, I showed him around the facilities, and we went down memory lane, and it was really a fun experience. And then, of course, we went to Provo. But I will tell you, they were much more accommodating at the University of Utah than at BYU. It was kind of a closed door. It was like, you can only go in here and this place and that, and you're not really welcome here and whatever. And it was just it was a very, very different vibe. Going to the two different schools, and just the openness, and yeah, absolutely, sounds like a great time. Come on in, kind of thing, And Jason won the Outland Trophy at BYU and played in the NFL. Went to a couple of Super Bowls, but I don't know how welcome we were. So it does matter, and it does have an impact.
Yeah, it's not like you ever did much for the program bringing that Outland Trophy. Oh, we lost Scott. That's Kind of okay. It's time, if I want to stay on clock, for us to take a break soon here anyway. Big thanks to Scott Mitchell, who is the host of Down and Dirty. You can listen to him right before our show. And, of course, you can hear him on the Utah Football Radio broadcasts alongside the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, and Stevenson Sylvester. Sly, as far as I know, is going to be roaming the sidelines again for University of Utah Radio broadcasts. Before I take a break, I've told you this. You've already experienced it because the power bill, if your windows need replacing, has been climbing these last couple of months aggressively. If your windows are not energy efficient, meaning they're old, meaning there's gaps, meaning they're single pane, the frames are made of, I don't know, some crusty old aluminum or whatever, your power bill is probably insane right now. There's potential for you to offset the cost of that rising energy bill by replacing windows and saving that much money. The financing options at Advanced Window Products have made that a reality for some people where they save so much on their energy bill. It's like the windows pay for themselves. Maybe that'll be the case for you. Maybe it won't be the case for you. But with 10 windows or more, 801-850-9100, you get $2,500 off. Tell them OC sent you. They're going to give you a little extra hookup. They're going to pay you a little extra attention. They're going to show you a little extra love. Nate Orchard, Jake Weber, a company that you can trust, run by people you can trust at Advanced Windows, that can save you money, that can not only take care of you from a business standpoint, but from kind of like a community standpoint, because they're right here in the heart of Salt Lake City. They support the same teams that you support. They support the same causes that you support. Yes, you're going to spend some money on new windows. You're going to save money on your energy costs by installing those new windows. But, of course, there's going to be a cost associated here. You can feel good about that cost because it adds value to your home. And, more importantly, the lifetime warranty is truly that, is truly a lifetime warranty. The installation, the sales, the warranty coverage, the manufacturing, all done in-house. No middleman. No, oh, that was their problem. That was something that they should have handled, so we're not going to make sure that you're taken care of. Advanced Windows puts their name on every part of the process, takes care of you through every part of the process, and warranties every single part of the process. Give them a call right now. Get the bid on your windows, 801-850-9100. $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Take advantage of it right now and do it while the energy cost savings is really meaningful in the heat of the summer. Oh, and by the way, when it's super cold in the winter, you're going to be glad you did it then too. Advanced Windows, advancedwindows.com, or 801-850-9100. Tell them OC sent you. All right, we'll take a quick one here. Chris Navalta, author of a new children's book that actually is released tomorrow. He sent us copies. James has been reading it with his child who is much too young to understand what is happening, but he's hoping that the young buck can absorb it through osmosis, I guess.
Hey, he's soaking it all in. I'm doing my best to raise a great basketball player, at least a great basketball fan. Okay,
he'll be a great basketball mind. He's 2 months old and he's already having
it really is a great read. I'm excited for Chris to come on and have this conversation with you.
Chris Navalta has a new book called Basketball Stars, releasing tomorrow. He's going to join us next to talk about it on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on a Monday. Happy to be back with you. Happy to welcome our next guest, Chris Navalta, kind enough to join me. He is the author of Basketball Stars, set to release tomorrow. James already has his copy. I've already got my advanced copy. It's a book highlighting 10 of the NBA's and WNBA's best players. And the author, we're lucky enough to have him join us to talk about the how and the why right now. Chris, welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
So tell me why this project became a thing that you just had to do, that you just had to get out. I've written a couple books myself. The process is tedious and difficult and not something that you do for the glamour. So why is this something that you just had to get on paper?
Yeah. So I just for a quick background, I had covered the NBA for almost 20 years, both as a sports journalist on the newspaper side, and I also spent some time working for a couple of NBA teams, the Sacramento Kings and Golden State Warriors. And so I just, having gotten to know some of these players is a kind of a reminder that these are also human beings who went through different types of journeys to get to where they are. And, at the same time, we're seeing how more popular basketball has ever been. With what just happened with Summer League. Shout out to the Charlotte Hornets for winning the Summer League championship, and also the rise of the WNBA. So I thought now was a pretty appropriate time to write Basketball Stars. And the thing I wanted to do was introduce the game to kids, who are just, they know what basketball is, and they've probably heard of some of the players, but really have them get to know some of these players, past and present, who paved the way to make the game what it is today. And also wanted to add in, some quick 4-step processes to execute some basketball moves. It's not supposed to make them the next, big superstar with these moves, but just some basic tools to get them started if they want to start playing basketball.
Okay, I wanted to say, I think this is the coolest part of the book because you can find, biographical information from so many different sources right now. And I haven't seen it done before. I'm not saying it's never been done before. I haven't seen it done before where you've got, examples in there on how to execute a signature move from a player. And I'm envisioning, an 8-9-year-old kid reading this and saying like, all right, let me go out in the driveway. Let me go out in the backyard. Let me go wherever the church hoop is. And let me go let me see if I can do this crossover. Let me see if I can do this Euro step. What inspired the decision to put that in and have it be such an integral part of the book?
Yeah, it reminds me of when I was covering high school basketball when I was doing newspapers. People were looking forward to what the players were doing during warm-ups. So back when I was covering it was dunks. Everybody just wanted to see dunks. Now you go to cover a game, or you even see it on the playground, to your point, and you're seeing people shoot half-court threes or step-back jumpers. And even though they're considered signature moves, if you take a look at it step by step, it's actually an easy process. And I wanted to display that along with the illustrations that were in the book to show that it's not that difficult if you understand the basic fundamentals. And that's why I wanted to start the first chapter with Steph Curry, and his process was how to handle the basketball. Everything starts with great ball handling skills, and then it progressively gets just a little bit more difficult. Next would be Caitlin Clark's step back jumper, all the way up until you work on Kobe Bryant's pump fake and pivot. So it was one of those things where I wanted them to learn these moves on a basic level, and then as they get older, they can kind of put their own spin to it and make it their own.
Chris Navalta is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. He's got a new book out, Basketball Stars. And you went and you selected, a few names. Obviously, there's no room to do every great player in the history of the NBA. So what was the selection process like? How did you come up with the players that you came up with and decide that that's the men and women that you wanted to highlight in your book?
Yeah, so writing this book under Penguin Random House. They've been a great partner as a publisher, and they gave me basically the autonomy to select the players. What they wanted, obviously, were the goats. Players that we all know: Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Steph Curry. And so we included those in there, and each of them had their own struggles. With Steph Curry not getting a Division I scholarship despite being Del Curry's son, and having his own gift of basketball skills at the high school level. Kobe had to move to Italy at age 6, and being somebody who transferred schools when I was around that age, I was already terrified trying to make new friends. I have no idea what Kobe had to go through living in a different country. LeBron having to move 12 times in his childhood because he didn't really have that stability in his life until he started living with his football coach and was introduced to sports. Those stories are important, but I also wanted to highlight other stories too of players that kids may not remember, like Muggsy Bogues, who's 5'3", when the average height of an NBA player is 6'5". Muggsy got to play in the league for 14 years. Jeremy Lin went undrafted and signed with a team, got waived by a team, signed by a team, waived by a team, all in 1 year before finally flourishing with the New York Knicks. Lisa Leslie, who paved the way for the WNBA, she wanted to play basketball to make new friends, and she was separated by the group the first day in practice because she was the only left-handed player on the team. Everybody else was right-handed, and so she committed to play with her right hand and inadvertently developed a lethal weapon in being ambidextrous, and then that led to success. So I wanted to cover the superstars, but I also wanted to cover other players too, because my message is that every basketball player has their own journey getting into the league, regardless of who you are. And I think it's important to highlight every player that I could, whether they're a superstar player, it could even be the last person on the bench. They all have their own journey, and there's no different story. There's no story that's the same. So that's kind of like the focus that I wanted to put on this book. And yeah, to your point, I could only highlight 10 players, but every player has a journey.
Was there any common thread, anything, whether it's, a background situation or a character trait that you think that, all that you found in all 10 of these people? And maybe because you covered the NBA so long and you were around some of the greats in that capacity as well, that is there something that all great basketball players have in common?
I would say determination, perseverance. I think that despite the situations that they were all dealt with, it didn't deter them from wanting to be the best player that they could be. Since Kobe didn't have friends in Italy, he resorted to playing basketball and being around his dad. When he moved back to the States several years later, when he had to basically start that process over again, he talks about how he wasn't invited to any social gatherings during the weekends, and all he did was go to the gym and play basketball. Same thing with LeBron. He even though he didn't have that kind of stability, once he was given that opportunity, he just literally took the ball and ran with it. He was introduced to football. First play, he runs for an 80-yard touchdown. And then we really saw what happened when he started getting into basketball. And so Muggsy Bogues was never picked on the playground because he was short. But he would go to the side and play his own games using milk crates as the basket. And once they really started to see what he could do as a defensive specialist, now all of a sudden he wasn't just somebody who was really short. He was somebody who could play basketball. So I think that determination and perseverance was the common thread with all these players. Despite the challenges that they went through, it didn't deter them from, focusing on, wanting to be the greatest players that they could be.
The WNBA players specifically, it's a cultural moment right now, it seems, for the WNBA, and maybe the most important time in the league's history since its inception. Well, first of all, do you agree? Do you think that this is like I'm not a make or break, but it just feels like a very crucial juncture? All-Star Weekend this weekend, the statement made on the T-shirts, the media rights that they're getting so much more attention now. Star players selling out their signature shoes and things. Is this the moment for the WNBA?
I think so. Like, to your point, I don't think it's a make or break moment, but as I mentioned at the beginning, the WNBA is at a fever pitch, and the popularity is at the stratosphere right now. And yeah, there's no better time than any to go back to the table and say, like the T-shirt said, pay us what you owe us. You know, the TV ratings are up and merchandise is up, and it's because of the star power that's now in the WNBA. And so I think it's only fair that they're paid what they're owed. So yeah, I'm in full agreement that we're kind of like not a crossroads, so to speak, but we're at a point where, like, look, people are paying attention to what's going on in the W, whether you're following the teams or the players. And this should be a proud moment, like this is what we were celebrating this past weekend with the All-Star game. And I think it's only fair that they're paid what they're due.
The Bay Area specifically has really kind of set an example in team support for the Valkyries, a new franchise, incredible attendance. Is that something you can replicate across the league, you think?
I think they're going to try. They just announced the other expansion teams that are coming in the coming years. I think the next one is in Toronto. And so I feel like with the rise of the WNBA, it's going to be a very interesting next few years when we see more expansion teams coming. As a Bay Area person, I can only speak for my experience with seeing the Valkyries here. It almost seems like they've always been here. I still remember last year when they unveiled what the team name is. All of a sudden they're here. All of a sudden they're selling out. All of a sudden they're in playoff contention. So it just seemed like a really great fit. Just given with how well the Warriors have been doing over the past few years. Hopefully that will continue on, and then that momentum now shifting over to the Valkyries, and how popular it is with families coming to the games every night. So. Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting next few years with the W and having some more expansion teams come in.
Before I let you go, your first book is coming out. Do you already have plans, or are you already working on the next one?
What I'll say is that this is something that I definitely want to continue. So I'm hopeful that this won't be a one and done for me. And I can say that I have some wheels turning in my head. So. Stay tuned for that. I'm definitely not done.
Start to finish, how long was the process for you? I don't know how many people have tried to get even representation with a literary agent and to get on with a publisher. I hope people realize that are listening what an effort that is, what an accomplishment just that by itself is, and to have this book being released. I'm very, very excited for you. So start to finish, from the time where you're like, you know what, maybe I should write a book, to when you got this thing coming out tomorrow. How long has that process been?
Yeah, I would say that I started the conversations with Penguin back in August. And so going back and forth with the copy editors on the ideas that we had in mind, I basically sacrificed my entire holiday season writing this book. And I would say that it got done early January, and then next was working with the illustrator on working on the images in the book. So I would say, yeah, like it wasn't something where I said, you know what, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to put this together, and then then have it come out. It wasn't like that at all. There were phone calls, there was editing processes. I had to cut a lot of stuff down because there was just so much to cover with these players. It is a daunting process, but if you're focused on what it is that you want to cover and you stick to that and you stick to deadlines, having worked in newspapers, I'm very familiar with deadlines, then and then you piecemeal it, based on what you do in these 2 weeks and then the next couple of weeks, not try to think about the whole project, then it doesn't feel as overwhelming. So I did sacrifice my holiday season, but with this coming out tomorrow on Amazon, Walmart, Target, where books are sold, it's all been worth it.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will say this: my producer James has like a 2-month-old baby he's already reading the book to. So if you want to maybe dabble in that world, the cardboard, the hard books, the baby books, you might have a future there as well, because it's getting great reviews from his infant son.
Oh, that's great to hear. No, I like to write for all ages, so that's something that I'll definitely think about. Maybe some more pictures too with the illustrations on how to do some other basketball moves.
Perfect. Chris, congratulations on the book. Thank you for sending us copies, and thank you for joining me today. Appreciate you.
Awesome. So thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Go Utes.
Hey, Chris Navalta. He knows who he's talking to. A little Go Utes there. The book is Basketball Stars. You can find it at the Penguin Random House website. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it wherever books are sold starting tomorrow. Pre-orders are available online already. And it really is cool. It's an easy read. It's a digestible read. It's designed kind of for that elementary school age set, but it works for anybody as long as you know how to read. James, have you tried any of the moves yet? Have you gone the step-by-step? Because that's
so what's kind of funny is so I've played basketball my whole life. Not necessarily, never got to a very high level. So I'm not saying I've been any good at it, but I've been playing it my whole life.
Church ball menace, though.
Yeah, and obviously as I was growing up, the Euro step had just barely started to get into the game at the NBA.
Not part of my childhood basketball, I'll tell you that.
And barely part of mine, right? But I have never been able to wrap my head around how you do the Euro step, like in a game.
Yeah.
So one of the signature moves is the Euro step. So I was like, okay, I got to actually go through this step by step because I've never been able to do it. That's one that I've actually tried because I'm like, the rest of these I can do, and I can figure out a way to do them. I've never been able to do a Euro step, so that it's funny you ask. I have actually looked through the step by step of the Euro step and tried it. I think I understand it a lot better, but that's like practicing in my living room. The step by steps, like going out on a basketball court, that's probably a long ways off if I ever am able to do that.
You're just dunking over your baby son in his little carrier. In your face!
In your face! You see a Euro step?
What's up, dog? You're not Euro stepping. You're still pooping your pants.
Yeah.
Don't trash talk babies, James. All right, that's a bad example.
Hey, you trash talk on my behalf, and you ask me to stop doing it.
Just because I projected, I know you could do it. I know you've been doing it. You just won't admit it. You don't want your wife listening to be like, "Oh man, sorry." All right. We'll take a quick one here. CBS Sports put out a really interesting article. It's this time of year in in college sports. I saw something about like a Philadelphia author had put out an article on Cooper DeJean's skin routine, and that's how far we've gone down the rabbit hole for summertime content. But this one is actually fun. This one is good. CBS Sports put out an inside look at some of the weirdest coaching contract clauses, some of the things, the little escalators that are built in for things you might not expect. I'll give you my favorite ones next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. All right, the weirdest, wildest, funniest quirks in college football coaching contracts. CBS Sports put a fun article together about some of the things that are thrown in there. For example, Bronco Mendenhall gets $5,000 for a win in a in-state rivalry game. So anytime he can beat Utah or BYU, he gets an extra $5,000.
I remember hearing about that part of his contract when he was hired by Utah State. Brilliant
Honestly,
by him.
Honestly, that is a weak-ass bonus to beat Power 5 team when you are Utah State.
That's true. You would have guessed it'd be
$5,000?
more than that, but it's brilliant by him to put something and his representatives to have a bonus payout for that, because Utah State needs the exposure of beating Power 5 schools, especially the in-state ones. So it's brilliant by them to ask for that. For sure.
Between now and 2031, there's no game scheduled against BYU, and there's 2 games scheduled against Utah.
So he's got a chance at
$10,000. $10,000 extra. That's why I'm saying it should be a $50,000 bonus.
Yeah. Like they should have probably demanded more, but good on them for realizing just how big a deal that is and to that fan base.
This one is interesting. So Scott Frost, and we never really had a chance to dive into this at Big 12 Media Days. I don't know if you were able to talk with Scott or Big Brown Bear about it, but Scott Frost at Big 12 Media Days was very candid about how things went so poorly at Nebraska. And he just was like, I never should have taken that job. I never wanted to take that job. I felt pressure to take that job. He was kind of trashing on the Nebraska job, which I get. It didn't work out well for him, and that's fine. He's back at UCF, right? He has some interesting clauses in his contract at UCF. If the Golden Knights earn a top 20 ranking in FBS football, right? So major college football, in specific stat categories, he gets an extra $25,000. Now there's a lot of them. So $25,000 if his team ranks top 20 in explosive running plays, explosive passing plays, offensive yards per play, if they give up the lowest percentage of explosive running plays to an opponent. Same thing with explosive passing plays to an opponent. If his defense is top 20 in yards per play allowed, if he's top 20 in scoring offense, top 20 in scoring defense, he gets $25,000 extra for any of those, if he hits any of those. So if he hits all of them, I'm not a math whiz, James, but that's an extra $200,000.
That's wow.
More importantly, if you are top 20 in all those, you're a top 25 team.
Yeah.
And your contract is going to look really good anyway, but
yeah, so I mean that's another shrewd move to say, hey, basically he defined how UCF is going to be a top program in college football and said, I want to be compensated for it when we hit it. By the way, anyone who's going, what's an explosive play? It's actually defined certain amounts. So in NFL terminology, the official amount of yards for an explosive run play is more than 10 yards and more than 20 yards for a pass play.
In his contract, it's 12 yards for an explosive run play.
Okay.
15 yards for an explosive pass play.
Oh, so 5 yards shorter for a pass, but a couple yards longer
for a run, which I think reflects the differences in college football potentially. Yeah. But the funny thing about this, and I know a coach would never do this for an extra $25,000, but like you could be like, hey, quarterback, we're number 21. We're going final 2 games of the season. We're number 21 in the nation in terms of explosive passing plays. Every route that your receivers run for the next 2 games are going to be 15 yards downfield because I want to get that $25,000.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to do exactly that, but
no, but it's not unlike what we see from player incentives in the last week of the NFL season. Like we saw Mike Evans needed 5 yards to get to 1,000, and he had incentives, and he had the streak, the 1,000-yard season streak going, and the game was already in hand, and they were going to the playoffs, but they left him in for one short pass play to get it. Like, I would not put that past Scott Frost and his staff if you get to the last 2 weeks of the season and they're just barely on the outside of these marks.
Phil Longo, who's the head coach at Sam Houston, which is a brand – they used to be a 1AA team. They used to be an FCS team. They're now an FBS team.
Yeah, they were a WAC school, if I'm not mistaken, not too long ago.
He is given a $50 a month cell phone allowance. I don't think you could. I don't think that pays for a cell phone anymore.
$50 a month cell phone. Yeah, okay.
Like somebody text in 877-353-0700. I don't pay $50 a month. We got the family plan, and it's more than. Maybe I'm dumb and I haven't held my provider to the fire. But we pay more than $50 for a phone line.
Is this okay? Is this just the payment for the actual phone, the monthly payment for the actual phone, or is it the phone service?
$50
Either way, that's like if it's for the phone, that's not a very expensive phone, and if it's for the service, you're probably not getting that great of a service for $50 a month. Yeah, that's a little low.
Brian Smith at Ohio, his contract automatically extends by a year anytime he gets 8 wins. That is the perfect definition of like the right job if you want stability in a job. Because it's a high enough expectation that the university is getting what they pay for. 8 wins is kind of like the floor for a good coach. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to hear this as a Utah football fan. You don't want to hear this as a BYU football fan. But 8 wins is a good season. That's a solid season. You're going to a bowl game. You're not losing ground probably in recruiting necessarily. It's a solid year.
Well,
and his contract extends by a year anytime he does that. Now, if you're at a blue blood, 8 wins is a fireable offense. At the University of Ohio, he's just like, yep, in perpetuity. You got us 8 wins, you're our coach forever.
I think that's reasonable for University of Ohio for that level of play. They're in the MAC, right?
Yes,
MAC team. So
action, baby.
I think that's definitely reasonable for a high-end MAC program like the Ohio Bobcats. But also, yeah, like it used to be across college football. As long as you made a bowl, that was a good season. It really is 8 wins now. The bar has to. I mean, maybe some would say 7. Like have a winning record, but the worst if you're doing worse than 8 wins, a couple years in a row, you're probably not keeping your job. So that's an interesting one. Get an extension every time you win 8 games. So he's got like a 5-year deal right now. Like, let's just say his deal's like for 5 years. If he gets an 8 win, he's got a 6th year on top of that.
Yep.
And the next year is 7th year.
Yep.
And then he can then after he's got like 15 years stacked there over the court, however long it takes him, he might be like, okay, now it's time for me to retire. You want to pay me my buyout?
Remember, Frank Solich was the head coach at Ohio for a long time, and this is Brian Smith who replaced him, and they've hit 8 wins the last 3 seasons.
So he's got 3 extra years already.
He's just like, let's do it, man. Let's just add another year to the contract.
What a great little clause for the
You know who that is the best for, James? You want to talk about attracting assistant talent to that level of job? Because when you're an assistant coach, being a head coach, you make good money no matter where you're at as a head coach, all right? The range of assistant coaching salaries in college football is absolutely bananas. You talk about places like Southern Utah, those guys are like at the poverty line, okay? You talk about places like Ohio, your head coach is making good money. Your assistant coaches could be anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000 probably. So it is nerve-wracking every single year for these families because they're not squirreling away a bunch of money, right? They don't have these buyout clauses as assistant coaches. You're just like constantly sweating it out. If that guy wants to hire some high-quality coaches who are from Ohio. They have Ohio roots. They like Ohio. You know what kind of an advantage it gives this coach in hiring good assistants? Because he can be like, look, man, I'm going to get extended every time we win 8 games. Your job is going to be safe. And, of course, he can still fire his assistant coaches. But you understand what I'm saying.
And he can, of course, still get fired with years left on his contract. But
our job is going to be safe. You're going to have a place where you can actually like raise stability is such a different thing in college sports and college coaching, especially as a job. It's a nice little advantage there. There's one about the moving costs that coaches get. Bill Belichick got $100,000 to cover his moving costs. Rich Rodriguez got $100,000 to cover his moving costs. I've never hired a moving truck. I've never hired like a moving service, I should say.
Yeah.
I've hired like a U-Haul and packed it myself and packed it up.
Doesn't cost $100,000.
I don't. So they get $100,000 to cover their moving expenses. Have to pay it back if they leave. But
no. Are you sure you want to leave? You got to pay us back $100,000 of your multi-million-dollar contract. Are you sure?
This one is really interesting. Jason Eck, the guy who replaced Bronco Mendenhall at New Mexico. He has a clause in his deal tied to ticket sales.
Oh.
If they climb 15%, he gets $15,000. 25%, $25,000.
So 1,000 per percent. It goes up.
Yeah,
starting at 15.
If they get 50% more tickets sold under his watch as a head coach, then he gets $50,000 extra. So New Mexico cares about how many butts are in the seats.
Yeah, I mean,
and the nice thing
I don't know much about the Lobos program, but that speaks to they don't feel like they're filling the stadium enough. So if our coach is good enough to win enough games to fill the stadium, let's incentivize them.
Fresno State. You know how you have the exit interview year by year as you're a player? They have them for coaches as well. They have their employee reviews. And again, employee evaluations are different at state schools and at private institutions. At state schools, it's something the state, you can't have it's not just about wins and losses. Your academic progress report and things like that come into play.
The state legislature has a say in what those goals need to be.
Employee misconduct or misconduct for yourself, obviously, is going to result in more negative reviews. He gets $100,000 if he gets at least satisfactory. If his report card comes back at the end of the year as having been a satisfactory performance, he gets $100,000 bonus.
So he gets a B in his class. He gets $100,000. Okay,
probably like a B minus.
B minus, C plus, maybe. Yeah. Like just you pass the class, you get $100,000. That's amazing for him.
It's really interesting.
Quite a high bar they're setting in Fresno.
So there's a lot of really interesting and funny little clauses. Some of them I think are overvalued. Like that one, $100,000 just to get satisfactory or better feels like overvalued. Like that's an excessively large bonus for just like a satisfactory performance. And then for Bronco Mendenhall to get $5,000 to beat Utah, that's way more than satisfactory. That's like an excellent accomplishment, and it's like, hey, here's $5,000. All right.
That seems like they're undervaluing, like you said, in-state rivalries from their perspective, at least Power 4 schools. Like, come on, that's got to be in the double digits and thousands at least.
The Matt Drinkle, the Central Michigan coach. This one
Chippewas.
This one is shout out to Kevin Graham. He was a proud Chippewa. This one is the opposite. Okay, if he doesn't do a press conference, he gets a $500,000 fine.
Oh my gosh!
That he has to pay to the school. Guess what his base salary is?
$2 million.
$415,000.
Yeah, I overestimated how much they're paying. Is that also max school?
That's base salary. Here's the thing. Base salary numbers like $415. I bet he's making $1 million plus per year. He's got to be making more. There's
he's hitting on plenty of incentives. Yeah.
There's always like you divide these things up. Like Kyle Whittingham's money like half of it comes
I
from
see.
the school and some comes from Under Armour, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
And then now and boosters and whatnot.
That's what we're
Yeah.
dealing with there.
So it's probably a lot higher than that. But yeah,
Still,
more than his
$500,000?
base salary.
$500,000 for a Chippewas coach to not show up to the press conference, man. What if you just oversleep your alarm? Coaches never do that. But what if you show up, you don't make the press conference, they're just like, that's $500,000.
That's $500,000. Give it to us right now. As a media member, I like that kind of a clause. Like, let's make sure our coaches and players actually fulfill their media responsibilities.
How about this one? I love this one. Appalachian State, famously, as an FCS school, beat Michigan back in the day, right? One of the biggest upsets in college football history. One of the most
Never
epic
happened
and
to the
incredible-
Buckeyes, just saying.
Okay, stop it. As the article states, there's a lot of coaches who have in their clause or clauses in their contract where, like, if you are a Weber State head coach and you beat a Power 5 team, you're going to get an incentive for beating that Power 5 team because it's a money game. If you find you're expected to lose those games. If you find a way to win those games, they're going to give you a little bit extra. App State, their head coach is Dow Loggins. In his contract, he gets money for even playing those games. So the school just putting Power 5 teams on their schedule, every time they do that, they owe him an extra $20,000.
I like that. They're getting a lot of money from the Power 5 school. They got $20,000 to give to the coach.
They're like, here's $1 million for playing Michigan. It's actually not $1 million. It's $980,000 because we have to give 20 of it to you. I actually don't like that at all. Those money games are.
I mean, you don't like that from the school's perspective, but I think absolutely as a coach, like, hey, you're getting this much money, you can give me 20. Also, I think Appalachian State is a Sun Belt team now, so I think they're FBS now.
That's right.
Yeah,
they were an FCS team when they beat Michigan
for a while. Yeah.
They leapt up like a while ago.
Right, but that's a because Group of
They're a
Five
Group of Five
schools
school.
because Group of 5 schools play Power 5 schools all the time, at least one a year. So that's good for the coach.
This year, Oregon State. Next year, NC State. The year after that, South Carolina. He's got $60,000 coming his way because he's got big games. I would put weird stuff in my rider if I was a head coach.
Well, you got to give me an example.
I would put, like, first of all, I would want to be at a Nike school. All right?
So whatever contract you have, if it's not Nike, you got to get Nike.
I'd be like, thank you for making me the head coach at the University of Utah. Sometime during my tenure, we have to become a Nike school.
And if it's not by this time, I send it back.
Then I'm a free agent. That would be a big thing for me. And I would want, like, $100,000 worth of free Nike stuff. Your Christmas shopping is done. Everyone you know gets awesome shoes from you every Christmas.
No, they just get socks. I can't. They wouldn't let me give away. They wouldn't let me give away shoes to my friends and family. But I got these cool socks you can have.
Hey, just especially when you
I do
start
that
having
just
more
to
kids,
mess with
James, you're
people.
going to realize just having socks that match is such a rare
It's a
thing.
big deal.
Because laundry, you just don't have time for laundry.
Yeah. We're already starting to.
I will
experience
confess
that.
to you that my socks match probably 30% of the time.
And you just tell people, hey, I did this on purpose.
Yeah.
It's a fashion statement. You don't wear mismatched socks? Okay. What do you eat? What do you eat? Candy bars with your hands?
Basically. All right, we got to. We're way over time.
Yeah.
way over time here. Take a quick one. When we come back on the other side, look, it was a hot button issue in sports. The T-shirts worn by the WNBA All-Stars. Pay us what you owe us. Are they owed, or because the league is not profitable, was that a misfire? We'll talk about that next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. Hour number 3. Reminder that the Live Night events are presenting our 2025 Granary Live Concert Series powered by Nightingale College and Murdoch Hyundai. That is Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer. Outdoor concerts right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake's Granary District. Details are available at ESPN700sports.com. We've got $25 gift cards we're going to give away to Big Willie's, title sponsor of the show. They hooked us up with the stuffed burger today, mushrooms, sauteed mushrooms on top of the burger and in the dual patties, perfectly cooked, melted cheddar cheese. The cheddar onion bun had just the right amount of char on it, toasted on the grill. You could tell they cared. And the jalapenos, I'm not always the one to put jalapenos on my burgers, but these jalapenos also were just ever so slightly charred, thinly sliced and ever so slightly charred, added exactly the right amount of kick and flavor to the burger. James, did you enjoy yours?
I did. I have to thank you for sharing the part of the burger with me.
I let James smell one tater tot, and I let him take his finger and touch the burger and then lick his finger. So he was able to.
I just got a smidge of grease.
Just a little essence of what the burger tasted like.
I even from that little essence of it, I got a little bit of that kick you were talking about.
1717 South Main, right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City. Check them out at Big Willie's. They are good to us. They'll be good to you. That lunch special, $15. They've got a different lunch special every day. Just mention the Sean O'Connell Show when you go in to get it. Make them part of your lunchtime plans. All right. I'm overseas, James, this weekend, and the WNBA All-Star Game, I promise you, in South Africa, most of the time is not making headlines. It was on South African television. I double-checked. I wanted to make sure. I'm like, what? Is this on? Do they have, does this hotel have ESPN? What am I watching here? It was not. It was the South African sports channel, Sky Sports, okay? And I'm seeing, as I'm ironing my shirts.
Same Sky Sports that's prevalent in the UK and stuff? Okay.
But they've got South African anchors, so I guess it's just like
another offshoot of Sky Sports. Okay.
So, and I'm just like, okay, wow, this is all right. This is making news in South Africa. Interesting. So turn up the volume a little bit, and of course the conversation is about the T-shirts being worn. Pay us what you owe us, right? I make the mistake of getting on Twitter, seeing what's being said about it. And of course, 99% of the responses are trying to dunk on the WNBA and their short-sighted players for not realizing how much money the league has lost and how dare they say they want more. And all these people, I mean, it comes off, if I'm being honest, even though I understand the point being made, the haste and the venom with which everyone jumps at that comes off as incredibly misogynistic. And I am very hesitant to throw things like that around because, let's be honest, in today's society, everyone wants to label everything as racist or hateful or misogynistic or whatever. And most of the time I'm with you when I'm just like, it's not that, okay? But I'm going to be honest, people I know and follow were immediately just like, ha, these idiots don't realize they lost money and so they don't deserve any more money. Pull back, relax, and understand the context with which these women are trying to renegotiate their deals. The WNBA has a $2.2 billion media rights deal kicking in next year, okay? These talks are happening now. They can't wait until next year when the checks are already being cut to say, hey, can we get some of that? Pay us what you owe us is not pay us what you have owed us for the last 40 years, or 30 years. Maybe some feel that way. Pay us what you owe us. And by the way, they should have just said pay us. Don't say what you owe us, because the reality of the situation, I'm going to come at it from both sides. Just hang with me here. Pay us when we have a $2.2 billion deal coming. That's a perfectly normal thing to say. That's a perfectly acceptable assertion for an employee or a member of a union, a players union, to make like, hey, you're getting more money, share it with us. All right? When owners of sports entities don't share when revenue goes up, guess what happens? The athletes strike. The athletes sit out. The athletes, 20 years later, sue. Where have we seen this before? What happens? Oh, that's right. This is what happened in college football. Now, I know the economic model is quite different because there was a lot of money coming in to college sports, and there was zero money going out. But if your Utah players, all of them, every single one of them, came out in 2001. Actually, scratch that. It's 2004, okay? It is the best team that you have ever seen playing on the field at the University of Utah. If Alex Smith comes out during warmups with a "Pay Us What You Owe Us" t-shirt on, you're saying, shut up and play, kid. If Eric Weddle comes out with a "Pay Us What You Owe Us" t-shirt on in 2004, you're saying, how dare you? We pay for your scholarship. You're getting a free education. I know of 10,000 kids who would die to be in your shoes. All true. All 100% true. Now that you look back on it, should you have paid those guys? Probably. Now, James, what about if I walk out onto that same field on that same year and I'm wearing that t-shirt? Pay us what you owe us. You don't owe me anything. You're not in the stadium because of me. You don't care that I'm even on the team. And I'm a bad example because I was that low on the totem pole, but there's honestly, on that Utah football team and on the 2008 football team and on this year's football team, there's really only like 22 guys, maybe up to 30, that you actually give a bleep that they're on the football team. And now, because it is societally acceptable and culturally we believe that these student athletes should be paid what they are worth, air quotes up, now you're saying, pay them. Guess what? What you owe us is not actually a universal term. That's why I don't like the t-shirts. Pay us what you owe us. Caitlin Clark can wear that. Asia Wilson can wear that. Sabrina Ionescu can wear that. Becky Hammond can wear it as a coach. Most of the women in the WNBA should not be wearing that shirt. Even most of the all-stars should not be wearing that shirt with that combative stance. Pay us what you owe us, because what you are owed is what you negotiate for. Pay us. Leave it at that. Pay us. The what you owe us is what triggered everybody into getting real mad, and that's when people started to show who they were and started to show their reactions. Pay us what you owe us for a league that has lost money historically is a big statement, is a little too much. Now, if you take a deep breath and you see that the media rights deal is increasing in value, it's the largest media rights deal ever for a women's sport, you say, and we talked with earlier about with Chris Navalta about how the Valkyries are selling out games.
Brand new franchise.
It's a brand new franchise. That's not true everywhere.
And
okay.
This isn't like what they're gonna do in the next couple of years. WNBA returning to Portland, returning to Cleveland. San Francisco and the Bay Area never had a WNBA team, and it's getting this much traction. So that's
it's
saying
great.
Something.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you're seeing that success and you're seeing growth in your industry, as a radio host, I would feel this way. As a producer, you would feel this way. As a male person, as someone who is working in a law firm, any of you would say, whoa, 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 the revenue is increasing. That means my salary should increase, right? I mean, the UFC is settling because their revenue has increased. They're paying a $375 million settlement that could have been a lot bigger, probably should have been a lot bigger, because their revenue has increased year over year over year over year over year, and fighter pay has not increased at the correct pace to go along with that, to the point where a court of law said, wow, you guys are suppressing wages. Wow, this is illegal. You guys are doing things that are not constitutionally correct, right? So there's two sides to this WNBA All-Star argument. The one side that is not welcome here is these girls don't play basketball the way that I want to watch play basketball. Fine. Don't say anything about their T-shirts. Then don't say anything about how much money the league has lost. If they feel like they're owed more money, they get to negotiate for it. I'm with you. I don't like the pay us what you owe us. When everyone knows that your league has lost money, they say, well, what do we owe you? Well, they're not wearing that shirt for me and you either. They're not sending that message to me and you. They're sending that shirt to their bosses, to the owners who are going to benefit from the $2.2 billion. And those owners are more than welcome to come back and say, sorry, ladies, you have lost us a lot of money. $40 million just last year in your best year ever. But do you know how long Amazon lost money? Amazon lost money for like the first 20 years of its existence. And now it's the biggest corporation on the planet. I'm not saying that the WNBA is ever going to touch the revenues of something like Amazon. But what these players are doing is they're trying to put themselves in a negotiation position that any other human being on earth would like to be in with an advantage.
Yeah. So it's so $2.2 billion is over 11 years. Just to add a little bit of context here, so it's roughly $200 million annually over the next 11 years, actually starting in 2026. So there's a Sports Illustrated article that astutely breaks it down to say, yes, it's true that they lost $40 million last year, but the media rights deal was only $45 million a year last year, and it will be again this year.
So you're on pace those numbers. You're on pace to be profitable next year.
So
for the first time.
So at $200 million, you're on pace to be profitable enough for WNBA All-Stars, particularly the superstars, like you pointed out. It's not unreasonable for them to take this kind of a stance, and the whole adding what you owe us was obviously to add shock value. Let's just all make sure we're understanding that part too, OC. Like they put what you owe us. They didn't just put pay us, because pay us wouldn't have gotten the reaction that what you owe us, pay us what you owe us did.
And by the way,
part of that is for the public, so that the owners start feeling some public pressure. The players were hoping that there'd be a lot more public on their side, I'm sure, to say, hey, come on, owners, you see how many people agree with us?
I think that you would have got more people agreeing with you if you hadn't.
If you just put pay, maybe just
if you hadn't said what you owe us, because what you owe us looks like entitlement. When we feel like we are owed something, that is kind of the definition of entitlement, right? And by the way, I'm not singling out WNBA. I'm not singling out female athletes at all. This is a problem. You know what ruined your college sports, ladies and gentlemen? For all of you people who think college sports is ruined, is numbers 30 through 100 on your football roster thinking they deserve more money.
Yeah.
Because they never did. I'm sorry. It's not true that the fourth string or the third string, or most of the time even the second string, any position deserves money beyond a scholarship. It's just not true.
Which is
you don't watch it. The television deal doesn't exist for that person. There's you don't go to the games because of that person. The starter, sure. There's a reason why the NFL only has half the number of players on the roster. Even if you want to say 50 players deserve the money or 53 players deserve the money and the rest don't, fine. That means half of all the college football players in the land don't deserve the money, right? And what have we been doing the last 5 or 10 years? Pay everyone, pay them all, pay these players. You don't owe the best quarterback in the country jack bleep. You don't owe him anything until he plays for your school. The reason people they're taking a gamble, they're paying these players on the fact that he is going to be, quote unquote, owed that, right? But if you're going to attack and dunk on the WNBA, and I'm willing to argue with them, I'm willing to have a conversation with them about, don't use that phrase, don't say what you owe. People are going to get triggered by that. You're inviting the misogyny. That's the wrong way to say it. You never invite misogyny. You're inviting the violent reaction, the angry reaction by being volatile. Maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe they carefully thought it out.
Like it was calculated enough to get a big enough reaction, and they're willing to risk that reaction being very negative because they wanted the attention. If they
look, I'm
I
bummed.
think if they did what you said, it just says pay us, I don't think it would have gotten as big a reaction.
You're absolutely right.
So and I think that, and I also think that you talking about how there's a huge chunk of WNBA players that they aren't owed much more money than they're getting paid. I think that's why it was shrewd of them to do it during All-Star Weekend too, to say, hey, yeah, we're not. They're implying that, hey, like we want everyone to get more money because we're a union, but like we're not wearing this at a regular season game. We're wearing this as an All-Star game.
If you can find me a sports fan who can name even 75% of that All-Star team, then I'm more willing to listen to the pay us what you owe us argument. I know that growth, you have to have patience for it. I know that they're having their moment right now. I don't want to see a situation where this derails any of the momentum, where there's a lot of public support right now for the WNBA, a lot of public support right now for the WNBA. The current climate of sensitivity and reaction to perception of entitlement and things like that in the United States, this might be a moment where, like you said, they were going for something calculated. They were going for a really profound reaction. I could see it working in their favor, maybe. I could also see it people being like the casuals that are tuning in and spending money and they never have before, being like, they're just like every other athlete. They just want more. It's all about the money. It's all like, because that's something you've never been able to say about the WNBA. I could see this hurting the WNBA. Now, again, I'm quibbling over 3 words, right? So I fully acknowledge I could be in the wrong here. But what I'm more mad about this weekend, what I was more bothered by, mad about is not the right way to say it. What I'm more bothered by this weekend is that if the scenario I was talking about had come out where, well, we did see this scenario when college athletes started really at the very start, started really making the case, I deserve more. I want more. You owe us more, right? People were like, yeah, they're right. More people were like that than the opposite, right?
Yeah, there wasn't this violent, oh, do you know all the benefits you get?
Don't you understand the numbers, ladies? Like, yeah, they do.
It's just,
but you don't understand the fact that they're entering a new era of women's basketball,
and it's going to come with a lot more money.
It's coming with a lot more money. It's already there, and yes, they should be grateful that they're getting more money than their predecessors did. That's true of everybody, right? We should all be grateful that we have a better quality of life than our predecessors did. It doesn't mean you don't ask for more or you don't want more for yourself. And it doesn't mean, especially if you're Caitlin Clark or you're Asia Wilson or you're Nafisa Collier or you're Sabrina Ionescu or you're one of these people that you don't want to lead this charge. I think you're playing with fire because of the reaction I've seen. I think you're really playing with fire here. But the bottom line is you wouldn't have the same problem with NFL players, hockey players, MLS players. You wouldn't have the same problem with men doing this. And I promise you, that is not my usual reaction to the feminist versus anti-feminist movement. That is not my reaction most of the time when someone cries racism. Most of the time I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Never attribute to malice what you can attribute to incompetence or apathy, right? It's usually not a hateful thing. What we saw in the reaction to this, some of it was pretty darn hateful. Some of it was pretty darn like, I'm telling on myself that I don't have respect for what these women are either doing or trying to do. It's fine if you don't agree 100% that they are, quote unquote, owed more, because owe is a loaded term. I'm fine if you want to have that argument. I really am. But please, everybody, calm it down and try to understand what is being asked for here and what is coming in a league that is finally getting its moment in the sun. Did it take longer than it should have for those NBA owners who are supplementing it? Probably so. But the message was to them, not to you as a fan. So don't take this opportunity to dunk on female athletes and feel good about yourself. You're telling on yourself, I think. All right. Once again, went way too long. Let's take a double here. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. We got some Dierks Bentley tickets to give away. We've got a $25 gift card to Big Willie's to give away. 877-353-0700. That's how you get a hold of us here on the Sean O'Connell Show. All right, we did start bench cut today with linebackers from the Pac-12 or Power 5 era for Utah football. We went through the numbers that these guys were able to achieve. It was, for those who were not listening earlier in the show, start bench cut Devin Lloyd, Chase Hansen, Gianni Paul, 877-353-0700. The Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, Devin Lloyd, had how many sacks that senior year, that DPOY winning year for him? How many sacks did he have? 877-353-0700. For Dierks Bentley tickets and a $25 gift card to Big Willie's, the title sponsor of the Sean O'Connell Show. Before we get to crosstalk with Spence Checketts, I want to remind everyone, I tell you, you got to have a window guy. You got to have a roofing guy. You know what else you need to have now? You got to have a hormonal health guy. You need to have somebody in your life that when you start gaining that weight and you don't understand because your diet hasn't changed that much or your sleep is going all out of whack, it might be something where your hormones are getting out of whack. It happens to all of us as we age, especially if you're a former athlete, especially if you're a former athlete in a contact sport. This is something you need to go have checked. Go to the Steel Vault in the heart of Holiday. It's a medical spa with all the equipment that you need to take care of whatever you want and the medical expertise to get your hormones in the right place to where you're feeling 20 years younger, you're feeling 10 years younger. 801-878-9976. Book your first consultation online if you want to do that. SteelVault.com. There's a big book now button. Tell them that the Sean O'Connell Show sent you. You're going to get 20% off hormone treatments, hair treatments, red light therapies. It's really a comprehensive spot with a comprehensive stop with all the things that you need to take care of your health. Physical, mental, all of it is related to your hormones especially. So go check it out and tell them OC sent you. Again, 801-878-9976 or book your first consultation online at thesteelvault.com. That's Steel, S-T-E-E-L-E, vault.com. All right. Spence Checketts and The Drive are coming up next on ESPN 700. How are you, Spence?
Hello, Sean. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Missed you.
Missed you.
Love you.
Had a great time.
How does it feel to hear a grown man tell you that he loves you?
Doesn't bother me at all.
Oh, good. I like that. Okay. Well, welcome back.
We're friends a long time now.
Yeah, we are. After our trip to Dallas, we're best friends now.
We're best friends.
Yeah.
We're the two best friends that anyone can have. Yeah.
You have such a lovely voice. You should sing on air more often.
I should sing all the time.
I want to know all the things about Cape Town, though, because I've not been.
You got to go, man.
I know, man.
It was
baklava shake?
No.
Okay. All right.
Randomly.
Okay.
It was wonderful. The cuisine was incredible. The way that the return flights worked. Usually I get on the first flight out morning after, and it's Africa to the United States. You have to wait for when the flights are.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
So I actually got to go the morning after. We got to go out and do some shark diving, and it was just like, man,
nice.
Such a cool place. The people there are wonderful. The city's beautiful. It's wintertime down there, so it was like 60 degrees and sunny. It was phenomenal. Great fights. We had a come-from-behind, last-second submission finish for a title upset. It was a wonderful time in Cape Town.
I am jealous, happy for you. Yeah, I'm not one of those people that have, like, a bucket list that I have to do this, that, or whatever, but there are a handful of places I really want to see in Cape Town. Has always been on the list.
Yeah, you got to get there. It's a really, really wonderful place with excellent food, which I know you care about.
Indeed.
Start bench cut, Devin Lloyd, Chase Hansen, Gianni Paul. Would you like me to give you some numbers?
Well,
to help inform your decision?
Yes. Now, Chase is coming in the studio today, so I've got to be a little careful about my answer. But, yeah, lay the dad on me. Let's
tell him I cut him, and I felt bad about it.
Okay, I will, because I actually think that's the right answer. Love you, Chase.
So Gianni Paul had 2 seasons at the U, right? He transferred from the University of Miami. He had 178 tackles in a Utah uniform. 17 of those were for loss. I'll just tell you his best season because it's easier to do that. 13 games in 2015, 117 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 4 interceptions. 4 fumble recoveries, and 2 forced fumbles. Really, really good year. He should have won, in my opinion, Defensive Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon was the better team. DeForest Buckner had some big numbers for Oregon. DeForest Buckner got the nod that year. As you know, Chase Hansen started out as a quarterback for the University of Utah, but when he moved to linebacker, so again, a one-year comparison, he had 114 tackles, so 3 fewer tackles, 22 tackles for loss, so that's 8 more tackles for loss, 5 sacks. He had 2 interceptions to Gianni Paul's 4 interceptions. He had 1 fumble recovery and 0 forced fumbles. So again, really, really good year. Devin Lloyd, you get this whole body of work at linebacker to judge, but his best year, DPOY in the Pac-12 Conference, 2021, 110 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, same number as Chase, 8 sacks, because the correct answer has already come in on the text line, 4 interceptions, matching Gianni Paul's interception total from his best year, and 2 of those, by the way, were pick sixes, no forced fumbles, and only 1 fumble recovery. Embarrassing for you, Devin Lloyd. How dare you?
And closer than I expected, if I'm honest.
Well, that's why
Yeah.
it was, you know.
Yeah. I still think the answer is start Devin.
Yeah.
And I think you got to – you know what? He's coming in the studio. I'm benching Chase. I'll cut you out. I think it's an hour. I don't want it to be extremely awkward. I didn't realize Chase's numbers were on par with those two.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you asked me to just guess, I would not have guessed that Chase was close in honestly any of those data points. And it's not a knock on Chase. It's those other two were just so elite.
If you had won the conference championship that year instead of Washington winning, Chase would have been Defensive Player of the Year in the conference.
Yeah.
He came up against the same thing that Gianni Paul did. Those were all 3 of those guys had very, very strong cases to be Defensive Player of the Year. Devin Lloyd, the only one who won it, obviously, but really, really incredible years and a crazy good career for Devin Lloyd, because also his sophomore year, he was incredible. He had 91 tackles and 11 tackles for loss as a sophomore. In the COVID year, in 5 games, he had 10 tackles for loss.
Yeah, he was just a different dude. You know, you could tell right away he was going to be special, elite in the NFL. Do you know where Gianni used to do a little radio with me? I used to have him on the show quite a bit. Is he kicking around at all?
I don't know what Jibo's up to, man. I tried to get him to fight because it didn't work out. It didn't work out in the NFL world for him, which was also a strange thing. He just the fact that he was so good as a college football player without having elite physical traits. Like Chase had elite physical traits. Devin even more so. The way it played out, Gianni didn't. He wasn't particular. He ran like a 5 flat.
Yeah.
Spence, I ran faster than a 5 flat.
Yeah.
He was 5'10". He just was always around the football. He was an incredible, incredible player. He had a nose for football like it was Weddle-esque almost. Really incredible.
You know, surprised it didn't work out. He wasn't drafted either, right? He was an undrafted invitee that never really stuck.
And never even got to settle in with a camp.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I wonder where our guy is. He was good on air. I had him on the show quite a bit. We'll have to try to reach out to him. Speaking of linebackers, I don't usually do this, but at Big 12 Media Days, we were lucky that Paul Kirk did not know that we had Lander on for 30 seconds earlier. So he brought him back over where you and I visited for like 20 minutes. I actually went back and listened to it. He's such a pleasant kid, such a delightful kid. And I'd only interviewed him in short spurts. That was the first time I had an extended opportunity to talk to him. I was really impressed. I went back and listened. It was fun.
Yeah, he's again, we spent a lot of time talking about what could be for Lander Barton.
Sure. Yep.
And the answer is what could be it's Devin Lloyd is what could be for Lander Barton. That's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
He could be, if he plays up to his potential, he could be a first-round draft pick like Devin was. He could be a Defensive Player of the Year type candidate like Devin Lloyd was. There's not a big physical difference between those two. In fact, Lander's a little bit bigger, if I'm not mistaken.
Than Devin is?
I think so. I think he's taller at least.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, every year it seems like there is that one guy that makes the game-changing plays on defense, and I feel like Lander's the guy this year, and Smith as well. And the other thing that I keep coming back to is when Coach Witt on our show talked about seeing those two on offense. And then us kind of breaking the news to them. They're like, wait, I didn't think anybody knew about that. Like, no, your head coach just said it on air, so we're good to go.
They were allowed to talk about it?
Yeah. Be interesting to see what that looks like, because both those two were, excelled offensively in high school. It's the positional switch thing is always interesting to me, and Utah football, the coaching staff is simply elite at this. And BYU's good too. The Glasgow kid, Jack Kelly, their 2 linebackers were offensive players in high school. That's a unique thing to be able to do as a coach, to be able to see that, whether it's Nate Orchard as a wide receiver, like, no, you're a D end. And Nate tells the story coming out of Highland, he's like $180. He had to put on a lot of weight to play the position that Morgan and Kyle wanted him to. But it seems like their hit rate, when it's like, okay, you're a quarterback now, but now you're a safety or a linebacker or whatever. I don't know what it is compared to other coaches across the country, but it seems like that's an elite skill of Utah's football staff.
You know what I'm almost, dare I say, more excited about
What's that?
this year is what they're doing with Hunter Andrews,
Mm-hmm.
because they did the thing that is predictable and expected from a Kyle Whittingham team,
Mm-hmm.
where they took the white running back and they're like, well, you're a linebacker
Yeah.
in college.
Mm-hmm.
And he was fine, but then they're like, actually, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, maybe you're supposed to have the ball in your hands. Let's put you over on the other side, and he's going to play that hybrid position this year.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what that looks like, because they were real quiet about it at media days, but in spring football, it's all anyone was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Morgan himself, I can remember, it was like my sophomore year at the U. Morgan's older brother, Taylor, was a senior, and he invited a bunch of us to go. He said, you got to watch my little brother play. He's playing for Highland. And Morgan was a running back, and he was a bowling ball. Like, nobody could stop him in high school as a running back. I don't know what the impetus was for the positional switch, but obviously an elite safety at the U. So Morgan himself has some experience there. I mean, whatever the high school thing is where you're like, hey, you won a Heisman. I think it's a couple of kids every state or whatever. Morgan won that in our state. I mean, he was an unstoppable running back at Highland High School.
Also an incredible rugby player.
Yes, indeed.
You could still find like the top 100 tries, like the old highlight videos or whatever.
Uh-huh.
You'll every once in a while you'll see one he had in an international tournament. I think it was against South Africa, where it's like one of the best tries ever, and it was like a U18 or U17 World Cup or something.
Yeah,
crazy.
he's built like you. He's got the head and the jaw. Like, he's just a sturdy dude.
That's a compliment. That's a
It
nice
is.
thing to say.
You won $1 million because you could get punched in the face a few times and wait it out, knock somebody out. It's a good thing.
That could happen.
It
That's
did
fun.
happen.
It did happen.
It literally happened.
It actually, yeah.
It's a great thing.
What happened to that money?
Well, you got married, you got 3 girls.
there
That'll go
it
quick.
is. There it is.
That'll take it quick.
Glad to be back.
Good to see you, buddy.
Excited to have the drive with Spence Checketts coming up next. And yes, the correct answer was text in for our trivia question. Dirks Bentley tickets and $25 to Big Willie's down at 1717 South Main. Tell them Sean O'Connell sent you for the lunch special. That is the stuffed burger with tots on the side. Thanks for listening. Let's do it again tomorrow. It's 877-353-0700 on our text line. It's ESPN 700 at 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network.